Chapter 919. The source of the golden light was in the Starfall Dynasty's Lingbei County, and Tudeng was nearby. When the holy city appeared, Lang Shiqi and the rest immediately teleported over through the underworld and found the holy city. The holy city was bathed in the golden light, and one could barely see its shadow. However, when he got close to the holy city, he was blocked by the light. Even Meng Tianzong with his Ascension Realm cultivation could not break in. Lang Shiqi said in a deep voice, "This golden light is very strange. It clearly does not contain any power, but we can't break through. We can't take advantage of this opportunity. What a pity." Meng Tianzong stretched out his hand and grabbed a strand of golden light. This golden light contains Saint Force, but it is dissipating very slowly. So we still have to wait for a while before we can enter. From now on, there will be experts coming over every day. It can be considered a grand occasion for the continent. Lang Shiqi was also helpless. Since they could not break in, they could only wait. Fortunately, the underworld was strong enough. Even if he faced a Ascension Realm expert, he was not afraid. As time passed, Lingbei County became the focus of the world. Spirit cultivators in the continent rushed to Lingbei County like moths to a flame. Especially when some people who knew ancient secrets found out that this was the holy city. Wind Whisper Tower also bought this information. Since Wind Whisper Tower had this information, it meant that everyone in the world knew about it. In less than a month, Lingbei County was almost filled to the brim. This was when most of the Northern Wei Dynasty and Thunderfire Dynasty's spirit cultivators had not arrived. The Starfall Dynasty acted as the host and placed a large number of experts in Lingbei County. They even mobilized tens of thousands of troops to maintain order. Those elusive Sky Origin stage cultivators seemed to be a bit common now. It seemed that they could be seen everywhere. 90% of the top sects in the world had either arrived or were on their way. After 2 months, the number of people gradually decreased. At this time, all the experts in the world had gathered in Lingbei County. Every sect occupied a piece of land, waiting for the holy city to truly open. The ones closest to the holy city were naturally the top sections. A total of 50 transcendents and top forces were lined up in a row. Many Sky Origin Realm experts were walking back and forth. Just one look was enough to brag about for a lifetime. More than half of the Thunderfire Dynasty's Imperial Consecration Hall came, led by Xian Haoying, a peak Sky Origin Realm expert. Lang Shiqi's identity was West Desolate King. This time, he did not follow the Thunderfire Dynasty's Imperial Consecration Hall, as it was more convenient for him to move alone. The current commander of the Dark Thunder Guards, Eunuch Gao, and the commander of the Discipline Commission, Gu San, were in the ranks of the Hall of Worship. Imperial Consecration Sects Imperial Consecration Dynasties Consecration Hall Imperial Consecration Hall Halls Consecration Halls Imperial Consecration Halls Imperials Consecrations Hall Imperial. The Black Frost Ghost Man, Bone Demon, Wu Xiang, and Hua Luiyue from the Blood Garment Pavilion had all arrived. The Hall Master of the Supreme Saber Hall, Fu Yingxi, and the Vice Hall Master Yushu, as well as the Purgatory Demon Sect Master, Purgatory Demon, and the Vice Sect Master, Meng Ming, also occupied advantageous positions. In addition to these sects, there were scattered Sky Origin stage cultivators on the other side. They were all masters who lived in seclusion. Lang Shiqi knew Qingzhu and Honglian among them. Lang Shiqi looked around and found there were over 500 Sky Origin stage cultivators there. 99% of the Sky Origin stage cultivators were here. Not only were there Heaven Origin Realm cultivators, there were even a few Tongxian Realm cultivators. Old Man Qiao from the Thunderfire Dynasty, Chen Xian from the Northern Wei Dynasty, and 2 from the Starfall Dynasty had come. Actually, everyone had long felt that it was impossible for the Starfall Dynasty to only have one mystic comprehending realm cultivator. One of them was Wuma Yuanqing, a well-known Tongxian realm expert. They were not familiar with the other person. After asking around, they found out that he was Ying Qinhe, a member of the older generation of the Starfall Dynasty's royal family. He had just entered the Tongxian realm. The Starfall Dynasty did not want to expose Ying Qinhe's existence so early. He would be most useful in the dark. However, there were too many experts in Lingbei County. Not only were there hundreds of Sky Origin stage cultivators, but there were also more than 10 Tongxian realm experts. Wuma Yuanqing alone was not enough to intimidate so many Tongxian realm experts. Apart from these 4 people, the Four Saints Spiritual Realms Lord, Six Directions Spirit Supremacy, Luoying Spirit Supremacy, Huang Wei Spirit Supremacy, and Wu Ji Spirit Supremacy were all here. The experts from the three dynasties and the Four Saints Spiritual Realms were all gathered here. None of them liked each other. For example, Old Man Qiao and Six Directions Spirit Supremacy almost fought each other. Also, the Four Saints Spiritual Realms were not so harmonious. For many years, they had been fighting over who was the true ruler of the human race, and they did not agree with each other at all. On the other hand, the Nether Temple and Pure Yang Temple, which were both transcendent forces, kept a low profile. The Nether Temple only sent the Nether Temple's sacred lord. He stood alone in mid-air. His aura was extremely cold, and no one dared to approach him. Of course, he was not the Nether Temple's sacred lord. Instead, he was the Tongxian realm expert that Lung Shiqi released from the Nether Temple's tomb, Yu Lin. The Pure Yang Temple was even more low profile than the Nether Temple. Over the years, people from the Nether Temple would occasionally appear. However, the Pure Yang Temple had not appeared for hundreds of years. Only one person from the Pure Yang Temple came. No one present knew him. He was an old man in a white robe. He stood on the ground as usual with an indifferent expression. The Yin Yang Temple had not appeared in public for many years. At first, they thought that they were two opposing forces. However, they did not know each other after meeting each other. They did not even interact with each other. It was obvious that the others had thought too much. There were 10 Tongxian realm experts in the world sect ranking. There were also 3 Tongxian realm experts who had hidden themselves from the world. With 13 Tongxian realm experts gathered here, if not for the birth of the holy city, it would be impossible to see such a shocking scene. Six Directions Spirit Sovereign felt that it was strange. The people who had spoiled his plans twice did not come. One of them cultivated the law of earth, while the other had an invincible body. However, he knew all the Tongxian realm experts present. Those two were not among them. There was also a reincarnation master from the Thunderfire dynasty who had yet to appear. He did not know if he was guarding the Thunderfire dynasty or hiding in the dark. The golden light surrounding the holy city became fainter and fainter. Countless spirit cultivators surrounded the holy city in circles. It could not be described as tens of thousands, but hundreds of millions. Every day, the atmosphere in Lingbei County became more and more tense. No one wanted to miss the great opportunity of the holy city's birth. Even if those low-level spirit cultivators knew that they were not fated with the holy city, they would not have lived their lives in vain after witnessing such a grand scene. Until one day, the golden light faded into a thin layer of golden mist. Six Directions Spirit Sovereign suddenly burst forth and successfully passed through the golden light. The battle for the holy city had begun. Chapter 9:20. Six Directions Spirit Sovereign opened the curtains to a battle. The other Tongxian realm experts immediately followed closely behind and forced their way into the golden radiance. The Sky Origin realm experts also tried, but unfortunately, no one succeeded. As expected, the stronger one was, the higher the chance of success. The only special one was Old Man Qiao. He tore open space with a single hand and opened up a spatial passageway in the golden radiance that led directly to the holy city. Let's go! Old Man Qiao led the Thunderfire Dynasty's Sky Origin realm experts into the passageway. Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed loudly, "Wow, that's the Thunderfire Dynasty's Old Man Qiao, the Tongxian realm expert. How did he do it?" A spirit cultivator from the Thunderfire dynasty said proudly, "Ignorant. Old Man Qiao cultivates the space law, which is one of the highest laws. It's easy for him to shatter the void." Leng Shiqi was also in the passageway. As long as he entered, it would mean that everyone from the underworld had entered as well. It had to be said that the space law was indeed very powerful in this situation. After walking through the passageway, he arrived at the golden radiance. At this moment, he was in a huge square that was shining with golden radiance. The other 12 Tongxian realm cultivators couldn't help but frown when they saw Old Master Qiao walking in with his entourage. No one expected that the Thunderfire dynasty would be the first to gain the upper hand. Lung Shiqi looked over. The place they were in was very big, and it would not be a problem to accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. In front of them stood a majestic wall that stretched endlessly. In the middle of it was a huge golden door that was dozens of feet tall. That was the door to the holy city. Between the golden door and the square, There were 4 stone pillars that were dozens of feet thick and towered into the clouds. However, everyone's gaze was fixed on the door, but no one dared to step forward. No one knew if there were any arrays here. As the saying went, whoever made the first move would lose. It was better to wait and see. 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign's vertical eye swept across the surroundings. His gaze paused on the 4 stone pillars for a moment before moving to other places. This action was not hidden from the others. Luo Ying's Spirit Sovereign gracefully turned around and said, 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign's illusion breaker spirit eyes can see through all things. You must have discovered something. 6 Directions Spiritual Senior cursed in his heart. This shameless woman. Spirit Exalted Luo Ying noticed his little actions, but she didn't send him a sound transmission. Instead, she openly spoke about it, causing him to become the center of attention. The Mystic Comprehending Realm Cultivators and the Thunderblaze Dynasty's Heavenly Origin Realm Cultivators all looked at 6 Directions Spiritual Sovereign at the same time. Old Master Qiao stroked his beard and laughed in his heart. Indeed, 6 Directions Spiritual Supremacy was the center of attention wherever he went. It just so happened that all the attention was diverted to him. Huang Wei Spiritual Sovereign sneered. We are now on the same side. Only by entering the Holy City as soon as possible can we find more opportunities. If the hundreds of Heaven Origin stage cultivators come in, you won't be able to deal with them even though you are a Tongxian stage cultivator. Not bad. The last of the 4 sacred spiritual realms, Spirit Sovereign Wu Ji, added, Liuhe, no matter what we discover we can share it. Right now, the most important thing is to enter the Holy City. If I find any clues, I will take the initiative to inform you. Disdainful 6 Directions Spiritual Sovereign thought to himself, what can an ignorant man like you find? Left with no choice, 6 Directions Spiritual Sovereign could only say, look carefully at the patterns on the 4 stone pillars. I am not sure about the others, but I am very familiar with the pattern on this one. Everyone looked over and saw that the stone pillar he was pointing at was engraved with the pattern of gods. Just looking at it gave people the urge to kneel down and worship it. Lang Shiqi immediately recognized that it was the 6 Directions divine statue that 6 Directions Spiritual Sovereign had once used. Spirit Exalted Luo Ying said softly, this stone pillar is actually engraved with the falling cherry divine art. This is the Emperor's Might divine sword. And the 8 Ultimates martial arts. The 4 sacred spiritual realms domain masters all saw that the engravings on the stone pillars were actually the strongest spiritual techniques that had been passed down in their spiritual realms for a long time. Wuma Yuanqing of the Starfall dynasty stepped forward and said, legend has it that the holy city was built by the 4 sages. If I may be so bold, I guess that these 4 stone pillars are the key to entering the holy city. No one present was a fool. They quickly realized that perhaps only the combined transmission of the 4 sages could open the gates to the holy city. Wuma Yuanqing continued, I believe everyone has guessed it. The 4 of you are the true inheritors of the 4 sages. It is only reasonable that you are the ones who open the gates to the holy city. Even so, if the 4 of us can really open the gates to the holy city, you will be the ones who will benefit. No matter how you look at it, it is not worth it. Spirit Exalted Luo Ying's red lips moved slightly as she calculated. That's right. Spirit Exalted Wu Ji agreed. We will exhaust all our spiritual energy to open the gates, but you will be able to take the opportunity to enter the holy city. It will be a loss. The Mystic Comprehending Realm cultivators looked at each other and secretly communicated with each other. Wuma Yuanqing said, the 4 of you are right. How about this? If you can really open the gates to the holy city, as long as the 4 of you are the first to arrive, we will not fight for any of the treasures inside. Of course, there will only be one chance. Spirit Exalted 6 Directions' eyes flashed. This meant that they could at least avoid a battle. After all, their opponents were all Mystic Comprehending Realm cultivators. This was already a huge advantage. The 4 of them did not push their luck and nodded. Shortly after, the divine light behind Spirit Exalted 6 Directions shot into the sky, and 6 heavenly divine statues descended. Spirit Exalted Luo Ying's hands flew and instantly formed countless spiritual seals. Countless gorgeous cherry blossoms floated and formed a flower god. Spirit Exalted Emperor's Might formed a sword with his fingers, and in an instant, a brilliant heavenly might descended from the sky. A divine sword filled with divine light stood in mid-air, as if it could slash the heavens and split the earth. Spirit Exalted Wu Ji split into 8, and 8 identical illusory figures executed 8 spiritual techniques at the same time. Their fists broke the heavens, and their palms split the 4 seas. Their might was unparalleled. Immediately after, something that shocked everyone happened. The flower god formed by the 6 directions divine statues and spirit-exalted Luo Ying merged with spirit-exalted Wu Ji's illusory figure as if it was alive. The Emperor's might divine sword also automatically flew into the hands of the last illusory figure. These 4 powerful spiritual techniques could actually undergo such a transformation. Spirit exalted 6 directions and the other 3 were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. As the saying goes, kings do not meet kings. Even though the 4 saint spiritual regions did not get along well with each other, there had never been a situation where the 4 of them fought each other. These 4 spiritual techniques had never appeared at the same time, so even they themselves did not know that these 4 completely different spiritual techniques were actually related to each other. Just as everyone was in shock, they heard a weak sound. When they turned their heads to look, they saw that the tightly shut gates of the holy city had unknowingly opened by a sliver. Things were indeed as they had guessed. The 4 saint spiritual regions were the key to opening the holy city. Spirit exalted 6 directions was delighted. Since they needed the power of the 4 saint spiritual regions to enter the holy city, it would definitely be beneficial to them inside the holy city. Chapter 9:21. The series of changes caused everyone's hearts to tremble. However, at this moment, the golden gate of the holy city suddenly opened, and a blinding divine light suddenly shone out. The speed of the divine light was extremely fast, so fast that even the mystic comprehending realm cultivators could not dodge in time. Fortunately, the divine light did not harm them. Instead, it pulled them into the holy city. The moment the divine light spread, 6 direction spirit sovereign glanced at Lang Shiqi, and killing intent rose in his eyes. Lang Shiqi only saw a golden flash in front of his eyes, and he arrived in another world. What greeted him was incomparably dense origin energy of heaven and earth. It was not spiritual energy, but origin energy of heaven and earth. The origin energy of heaven and earth here was actually several times denser than the outside world. With more origin energy of heaven and earth, it meant that the sky origin realm cultivators here would be stronger. The strength of a sky origin realm cultivator was determined by how much origin energy they could mobilize. For example, Xian Haoying, who was at the peak of the sky origin realm, could probably unleash combat power close to that of a mystic comprehending realm cultivator here. Similarly, the power of law here was obviously more obvious than the outside world. Everyone's strength had increased, which meant that everyone was still the same. Lang Shiqi looked around, and all he could see were strange creatures. At the very least, he had never seen them on the Starfall continent. The holy city seemed to be no longer on the Starfall continent. Where could the passage be? Lang Shiqi was most concerned about the passage out of the continent. If he were to search for it alone, it would undoubtedly be like looking for a needle in a haystack. He directly pulled Meng Tianzong, 9 Leave, Hateful Blade, 2 Deng, and the others into the holy city through the mansion of the dead. The few of them split up to search for clues. Lang Shiqi took advantage of the fact that there was no one around and released a large number of underworld beasts from the mansion of the dead to search around. He might be able to find some clues. He casually flew in a direction. Along the way, he encountered some natural treasures, but he did not even look at them. These things were no longer important to him. While he was searching for the passage, the other powerful cultivators had their own fortuitous encounters. In a deep, icy lake, a hunchbacked old man in a fiery robe was surrounded by flames. The entire lake was evaporating, and the water vapor dispersed, revealing a monster. It turned out that there was a huge snake that was dozens of feet long coiled in the deep pool. It looked like a snake, but it wasn't a snake. It looked like a flood dragon, but it wasn't a flood dragon. Although it had the body of a snake, there was a horn on its head, and its eyes flashed with lightning. As the cold pond evaporated, the giant beast roared in anger and soared into the air, charging towards the Canon Elder. The old man gently waved his hand, and in an instant, clouds of fire covered the sky. One after another, giant flaming hands descended from the sky. As the old man clenched his fist, the giant beast let out a wail and its body was crushed into pieces of charcoal. The smell of burnt flesh and blood filled the surroundings. The old man pointed his finger, and a long sword suddenly shot out from the deep pool and landed in his hand. The giant beast had been guarding this sword. He lowered his head and saw that the sword was covered in rust. The spirit power in the old man's body burst forth. With a flash of fire, the rust disappeared, and the long sword shone with a sharp edge again. The old man gently stroked the sword, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Its sharpness is comparable to a level 7 artifact weapon, but the power it contains is extremely strange. If it's not an artifact spirit, what could it be? Sure enough, there are treasures everywhere in the holy city. He was about to continue searching for other fortuitous encounters when a figure suddenly appeared. It was Six Directions Spirit Supremacy. Six Directions Spirit Supremacy saw that the old man had obtained an extraordinary treasure as soon as he entered the holy city. He was not envious at all. Instead, he smiled and said, "Brother Enigma Flame, you obtained an artifact weapon as soon as you entered the holy city. You have great fortune." It turned out that this old man was the reclusive mystic comprehending itinerant cultivator, Enigma Flame Taoist. Six Directions Spirit Supremacy? Enigma Flame Taoist immediately became vigilant. You and I have always minded our own business. You look for your fortuitous encounter, and I'll look for my treasure. Goodbye. Wait. This holy city isn't a city at all. It's like another world. Currently, there doesn't seem to be any danger. There are even natural treasures everywhere. However, the strength of a single person is weak. Since you and I are so close to each other, it must be fate. Moreover, there is no enmity between us. Why don't we join forces? Also, I have a deal here. I wonder if Brother Enigma Flame is willing to listen. Six Directions Spirit Supremacy pretended to be mysterious. Enigma Flame Taoist stopped in his tracks. Among the 13 mystic comprehending cultivators who entered, his strength was below average. However, Six Directions Spirit Supremacy was definitely one of the strongest. If he could join forces with him, it would naturally be a good thing. However, Enigma Flame Taoist had long heard that Six Directions Spirit Supremacy was an ambitious person. Joining forces with him would be like asking a tiger for its skin. He was somewhat hesitant. Six Directions Spirit Supremacy took the opportunity to say, "Brother Enigma Flame might have some misgivings. It's all right. Why don't we make a deal first? You help me kill a person, and I'll help you once. How about that? Kill someone?" Enigma Flame Taoist shook his head without much consideration. If even Six Directions Spirit Supremacy could not kill someone, his strength could be imagined. He would not get involved in this mess. "Brother Enigma Flame, don't be in a hurry to refuse. The person I want to kill is only at the Heaven Origin Realm. Moreover, he only broke through to the Heaven Origin Realm 10 years ago." Six Directions Spirit Supremacy said with cold killing intent. "This person is Lang Shiqi, the Thunderblaze Dynasty's king of the Western Wilderness. Brother Enigma Flame, just ask around and you'll know that I'm telling the truth." Heaven Origin Realm? Enigma Flame Taoist was even more puzzled. It's easy for Six Directions Spirit Supremacy to kill a Heaven Origin Realm cultivator. There's no need for me to do it. Through my Illusion Breaker Spirit Eyes, I can roughly see his location. The Thunderblaze Dynasty's old man Xiao is not far from him. If I were to make a move, I would definitely be stopped. Therefore, I purposely lured old man Xiao away so that Brother Enigma Flame can take the opportunity to instantly kill Lang Shiqi. Only then can I resolve the hatred in my heart. Six Directions Spirit Supremacy had revealed Lang Shiqi's identity before he became the Bloodcloth Pavilion. Six Directions Spirit Supremacy wanted to use the Thunderblaze Dynasty to destroy the Bloodcloth Pavilion. Who would have thought that the Thunderblaze Dynasty did not care at all and did not even make a move? After careful investigation, Six Directions Spirit Supremacy discovered that when he led his men to attack the imperial capital, there was a low-level spirit cultivator who overestimated his strength who came to stop him. It was that person who helped the Thunderblaze Dynasty stall for time, allowing the mystic comprehending realm cultivator who cultivated the law of earth to arrive. And that person was Lang Shiqi. He had planned for a long time, and this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity was ruined because of a Lang Shiqi. Later on, Lang Shiqi even succeeded as the pavilion master of the Bloodcloth Pavilion, causing Six Directions Spirit Supremacy to hate him to the bone. Now that he had come to the Holy City, he had to kill Lang Shiqi. Enigma Flame Taoist calculated in his heart. Killing a mere Heaven Origin Realm cultivator was as easy as flipping his hand. If he could exchange this for a favor from Six Directions Spirit Supremacy, it was definitely the best deal. This kid actually dared to anger Six Directions Spirit Supremacy. Don't worry, he won't live for long. Chapter 922. Lang Shiqi naturally did not know that Six Directions' spiritual sovereign had set up a trap to kill him. He was still searching for the legendary passageway. However, at that moment, he sensed a powerful fluctuation in front of him. Someone must be fighting for something in front of him. This was a common occurrence, so he did not want to interfere. He scanned with his divine perception, and his expression changed slightly. There were 3 Tongxian realm experts fighting in front of him. They were not fighting each other, but 2 of them were working together to kill one person. That person was the Thunderfire Dynasty's Tongxian realm expert, Old Master Qiao. The one attacking him was the Starfall Dynasty's new Tongxian realm expert, Qinhe, and the Divine Lotus Fairy, a reclusive rogue cultivator. Both of them were from the Starfall Dynasty, so it was normal for them to work together. Old Master Qiao cultivated the law of space, but he could not fight 2 people at the same time. Qinhe laughed loudly. Old Master Qiao, admit defeat and hand over the spirit flower. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless. Once you're injured, you might die in the Holy City, and the Thunderfire Dynasty will be in danger. You know you're not a match for us, yet you're still so stubborn. It seems that the spirit flower is really important to us. The Divine Lotus Fairy was dressed in white, and her beauty was unparalleled. Old Master Qiao's expression was gloomy. He had found a treasure not long after entering the Holy City, and he had spent a lot of effort to kill the monster guarding the treasure. In the end, he was ambushed by Qinhe and the Divine Lotus Fairy just as he obtained the spirit flower. What's the point of relying on numbers? Lang Shiqi appeared on the scene, and the 3 of them immediately stopped what they were doing. Those who dared to interfere in their battle were undoubtedly Tongxian realm experts. They turned around and were stunned. The Divine Lotus Fairy did not recognize Lang Shiqi at all, and Qinhe only recognized him after some hesitation. However, the 2 of them looked at Lang Shiqi as if they were looking at an idiot. A mere Heaven Origin realm expert dared to interfere in the battle of 3 Tongxian realm experts? Was he courting death? You're the Thunderfire Dynasty's king of the West, Lang Shiqi. You're so young, yet you don't know how to conceal your strength. Whatever. Killing you along the way can be considered as getting rid of a lackey of the Thunderflame Dynasty. Qinhe sneered, his killing intent surging. Old Man Qiao was also shocked. Lang Shiqi, why are you here? This is not a place you can come. Leave. In his heart, Lang Shiqi was the pillar of the next generation of the Thunderflame Dynasty, and he could not afford to lose him. Unexpectedly, Lang Shiqi shook his head. There are many people who want to kill me, but I'm still alive. You treat me like an idiot, and I feel the same way about you. You can't even detect my presence here. Idiot! As soon as he finished speaking, Lang Shiqi turned into a streak of black light and appeared in front of the Divine Lotus Fairy in an instant. Boundless energy of death condensed, and a sword of death appeared in his hand. As the sword pierced out, it was as though the gates of hell had been opened. Boundless energy of the netherworld covered the sky and swept across the world. Sword Dao of Death. The 3 metaphysical realm experts were shocked. Lang Shiqi's power was definitely at the metaphysical realm, and it was even stronger than Qinhe's, who had just entered the metaphysical realm. He had been hiding his cultivation all this time. Naturally, the 3 people present had different thoughts. First, Old Man Qiao was more surprised than shocked. Lang Shiqi was actually at the metaphysical realm, which meant that the Thunderflame Dynasty had another stabilizing force. What made him feel even more strange was that he was extremely familiar with this Sword Dao of Death. This was clearly the Sword Dao of the Master of Samsara. At this moment, Old Man Qiao finally understood that the Master of Samsara was Lang Shiqi. In other words, Lang Shiqi had broken through to the metaphysical realm more than 10 years ago. But how old was Lang Shiqi at that time? Old Man Qiao couldn't help but sigh. The younger generation will surpass us in time. On the other hand, Qinhe's expression turned ugly. Lang Shiqi's power was actually stronger than his. Not only would he not be able to obtain the spiritual flower today, but the Thunderflame Dynasty's threat in the Holy City would also increase exponentially. What was more terrifying was that the Thunderflame Dynasty seemed to have the ability to fight against the Starfall Dynasty head-on. Of the 3 people, the most shocked was of course the Divine Lotus Fairy, who was facing the Sword Dao of Death head-on. Unexpectedly, her palm landed lightly, and a dreamlike fantasy country immediately appeared in midair, using the power of a country to suppress the sword Tao of death. The surrounding space was compressed. The divine lotus fairy's palm seemed to cover an area of the sky, sealing this part of the world within. However, Lang Shiqi's sword Tao of death had already surpassed the so-called sword moves and spiritual techniques. This was the will of death that he had comprehended in the underworld, and it was as if it was made by nature. Even though it was suppressed by the fantasy realm, it was still full of destructive power. Lang Shiqi's eyes bloomed with the light of death, and his sword Tao of death reached its peak, instantly causing the fantasy realm to explode. Before the divine lotus fairy could retreat, Lang Shiqi slashed out with his saber again. The three realms of God, Devil, and Buddha descended, severing the physical body from the outside, the soul from the inside, and the negative karma from the heart. Short-lived, Three Gods Blade World. This series of changes made the three of them unable to react. Just now, it was a terrifying sword that seemed to have pierced out from hell. It was already shocking enough that he could grasp such a terrifying sword Tao of death. However, he had suddenly slashed out such a powerful saber strike that could split the heavens and earth. How could he cultivate two completely different laws at the same time? Tongxian realm. Those who could comprehend a trace of the law of heaven and earth were in the Tongxian realm. Generally speaking, it was already extremely difficult to comprehend a single law. Thus, more than 90% of Tongxian realm experts were proficient in a single law. And the Lang Shiqi had revealed two types. It was not that there were no experts who cultivated multiple laws, but there had never been one as young as Lang Shiqi. The divine lotus fairy could barely block the sword Tao of death, but she could not block the three gods' blade world. She turned into countless white lotuses that surged in all directions, and the three gods' blade world instantly cut down more than half of the white lotuses. The divine lotus fairy's figure appeared a few hundred feet away. Her face was slightly pale, and her expression was extremely serious. If she had dodged a little slower, she would have been injured. Ying Qinhe immediately wanted to attack Lang Shiqi, but old man Qiao blocked him. Ying Qinhe, do you think this old man doesn't exist? Ying Qinhe knew that he could not do anything to his opponent. Lang Shiqi had only used two moves to put the divine lotus fairy at a disadvantage. Although she was a rogue cultivator, how could anyone who could cultivate to the Tongxian realm be weak? Moreover, she had reached the Tongxian realm 100 years ago. Compared to Ying Qinhe, who had just reached the Tongxian realm, she was slightly stronger. In other words, Lang Shiqi was stronger than either of them. In addition, old man Qiao, who cultivated the law of space, was also stronger. If it was 2 against 2, they had no confidence at all. Let's go! Ying Qinhe coldly snorted, then turned and left. The divine lotus fairy glared at Lang Shiqi fiercely, then left as well. Old man Qiao turned and smiled. Lang Shiqi, oh Lang Shiqi, you really tricked this old man. Chapter 923. I didn't mean to hide it. Please don't blame me. Lang Shiqi's attitude was very humble. Seeing Lang Shiqi like this, old man Qiao was even more satisfied. How could I blame you? It would have been better for you to hide. Unfortunately, you exposed yourself in order to help me out. Actually, I could have escaped at any time, but that would have cost me a lot of spirit energy. You didn't have to take the risk. Old man, you are the pillar of the Thunderflame dynasty. I can't let you fall into any danger. Haha, let's not talk too much. Old man Qiao flipped his hand and took out a strange flower. This flower only had a single green petal. It looked a bit strange. However, that lone petal was actually emitting the aura of the pure law of wood. It was actually a treasure that contained the power of law. No wonder Ying Qinhe and the divine lotus fairy were so envious. Old man Qiao handed the spirit flower over. The two of them were fighting over this flower. I don't know what it's called. You were the one who defeated the two of them, so it should be yours. Old man is too polite. This treasure is yours. I don't dare to take it. Lang Shiqi didn't take it. In truth, this treasure didn't have any practical meaning to him. It's not that I don't appreciate it, but this treasure is of no use to me. Seeing Lang Shiqi so determined, old man Qiao said, Fine, I won't force you. This place is filled with treasures. If you find a suitable treasure, it'll be yours. From what he said, He was planning to travel with Lang Shiqi. That was how it should be. However, Lang Shiqi had a difficult expression. Old man, the treasure is a small matter. I think it's better to gather the Heaven Origin Realm cultivators. The monsters here are quite strong. The key is that if they encounter the profound comprehending experts of other dynasties, it'll be terrible. I suggest we split up and gather everyone together. It'll be safer and easier to find treasures. That's true. Take this. As long as we're within 5,000 kilometers, we'll be able to sense each other. Old man Xiao took out a jade pendant. All right, I'll take my leave first. Take care of yourself, old master. With that, Lang Shiqi turned into a stream of light and left. Old Master Qiao sighed with emotion. The student surpassed the master and flew in the other direction. The reason why Lang Shiqi revealed part of his strength was to avoid some trouble. After all, it was inconvenient for a Tianyuan cultivator to walk around here. Not only could he help Old Master Qiao out of his predicament, but it would also be beneficial to him. It could be considered as killing two birds with one stone. Several hundred miles away, Six Directions Spirit Sovereign and Enigmatic Flame Taoist had gloomy expressions. They had clearly seen the battle between Lang Shiqi and Divine Lotus Fairy. Enigmatic Flame Maestro said in a low voice, "Liuhe, this is the Heaven Origin Realm brat you spoke of?" Six Directions Spiritual Supremacy had fought with Lang Shiqi before. Naturally, he recognized the Death Sword Principle and the Three-God Saber Realm. Lang Shiqi was the mysterious expert who had stopped him from entering the Blood Garment Pavilion. "So it's you. It's actually you." Even Six Directions Spiritual Supremacy was shocked beyond words. "Lang Shiqi, you've already broken through to the Mystic Comprehending Realm 10 years ago, but you've been hiding your identity. No wonder you succeeded the Blood Garment Pavilion, and no wonder the Thunderblaze dynasty kept quiet. You've hidden yourself well." Six Directions Spiritual Supremacy also felt like his intelligence had been insulted. He had clearly been made a fool of. Not only did the killing intent in his heart not decrease, but it also grew stronger. If he did not kill such a peerless genius now, who would be able to kill him in the future? Enigmatic Flame, I'll definitely kill him. Just state your conditions. Still want to kill him? Enigmatic Flame Taoist shook his head. You should know best how difficult it is to kill a Mystic Comprehending Realm cultivator. Even if the two of us can injure him, we can't kill him. Who said it's just the two of us? Six Directions Spiritual Supremacy smiled sinisterly. What do you mean, spiritual supremacy? Six Directions Spiritual Supremacy narrowed his eyes and said, that Lang Shiqi is from the Thunderblaze dynasty. His existence is a great threat to the Starfall dynasty, and he's also made enemies. Enigmatic Flame Taoist understood. Spiritual Supremacy, you want to pull Ing Qinhe and the Divine Lotus Fairy into our alliance. If the two of them agree, we'll have a high chance of killing Lang Shiqi with 4 Mystic Comprehending Realm cultivators. However, there's a condition. Old Man Qiao must be lured away. Six Directions Spiritual Supremacy's Delusion Breaker Spirit Eye flashed with a dazzling light. Then, his face revealed a look of surprise, which quickly turned into a look of ecstasy. Ha ha ha, there's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. That Lang Shiqi actually took the initiative to leave Old Man Qiao. He's really courting death. Let's go, we'll go find Ing Qinhe and the Divine Lotus Fairy now. The two of them turned into streaks of light and quickly swept across the sky. On the other side, the Divine Lotus Fairy said to Ing Qinhe with a displeased expression, "Look at the kind of people you've provoked. They insisted on fighting over a spirit flower, but now they've gone for wool and come home shorn. Enough. If you didn't covet that spirit flower, why would you join forces with me? I've heard that the Divine Lotus Fairy's abilities are strange and unfathomable. In the end, you were defeated by a rising star in 2 moves. I'm afraid you don't live up to your reputation." Ing Qinhe had a powerful background in the Starfall dynasty, so his words were unyielding. The Divine Lotus Fairy was both angry and annoyed. Don't just stand there and talk. Go and fight that Lang Shiqi. He won't even need to take a breather after 2 moves. With such strength, even Wuma Yuanjie won't be able to win against him. Humph, Fairy, you're exaggerating too much. Ing Qinhe didn't believe her. Wuma Yuanjie was the strongest person in the Starfall dynasty, And he cultivated two types of laws of heaven and earth at the same time. In the entire world, no one dared to say that they could beat him. Just as the two were bickering, two other streams of light pierced through the air and arrived. Ing Qinhe and the Divine Lotus Fairy immediately became vigilant. Bickering was one thing, but they were still in an alliance for now. Six Directions Spirit Sovereign and Enigmatic Flame Taoist withdrew their spiritual light. Do you two have time to listen to this sovereign? In another broken ruin, an old beggar in ragged clothes muttered, "The original building style and materials are not from the Starfall continent. This is indeed a broken world fragment. What did the four sages want to do when they used the holy city to trap this world fragment?" In another monster cave, a young man with half his face burned was holding a purple bead in his hand. He said, "It looks a bit like a Yao core, but it's not. What kind of monsters are these?" Back then, the desolate heaven demon emperor told me to keep a low profile and find a chance to enter the holy city. This means that the holy city is the key to breaking through that barrier. In a rippling lake, a mysterious blue-robed man stepped on the surface of the water. It's the same water, but it's made up of different energies. Does this mean that the same law power will be different? I think I understand. Chapter 924. Inside an abandoned palace, two Heaven Origin Realm cultivators from the Thunderblaze dynasty were working together to break a formation. Just as they were about to succeed, four figures strangely appeared behind them. Only then did the two realize it, but it was already too late. A moment later, Six Directions Spirit Sovereign carried the two unconscious people and said, "Lang Shiqi is flying in this direction. He's not very fast, so he must be looking for something. He won't miss this palace. If he discovers that someone is trying to kill the Heaven Origin Realm cultivators of the Thunderblaze dynasty, he will definitely save them. That will be our chance." Six Directions Spirit Sovereign quickly convinced Ing Qinhe and the Divine Lotus Fairy. They all wanted to kill Lang Shiqi, so they quickly formed an alliance. Right now, they had thought of a good way to ambush Lang Shiqi. "Now, we need one of us to show up and attract Lang Shiqi's attention. We also need to fight him. While he's unprepared, the other three will attack with all their strength. Lang Shiqi will definitely die or be crippled." Six Directions Spirit Sovereign looked at the other three as he spoke. The four of them looked at each other and finally looked at Enigma Flame Taoist. Among the four of them, only Enigma Flame Taoist had not seen Lang Shiqi before, so there was no grudge between them. Lang Shiqi would never think that Enigma Flame Taoist was a trap. Enigma Flame Taoist immediately felt great pressure, but the arrow was already knocked, so he could only agree. Not long after, Lang Shiqi passed by the palace and found two Heaven Origin Realm cultivators of the Thunderblaze dynasty fleeing in a sorry state. He subconsciously scanned with his divine perception, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. His cultivation had long surpassed the mystic comprehending realm. No matter how well Six Directions Spirit Sovereign and the other two hid, they were still instantly discovered by him. Lang Shiqi was filled with killing intent as he thought, "Good fella, so they wanted to ambush me. Just nice. I need a few mystic comprehending realm heads." He then descended from the sky and stood in front of Lang Shiqi. When the two Heavenly Origin Realm martial artists saw Lang Shiqi, they were shocked. "Lang Shiqi, run. This old man is a Tongxian Realm martial artist." Lang Shiqi didn't say anything. He waved his hand, and a powerful force sent the two men hundreds of miles away. He asked coldly, "Who are you? Why are you chasing after the people of my Thunderblaze dynasty?" Enigma Flame Old Man put on an act and even mocked, "Who are you to dare meddle in this old master's business? Besides, the treasures in this holy city are ownerless. Whoever is stronger will own them. Leave quickly, and this old man will spare your life for now." Lang Shiqi seemed to have gone mad. "Whoever you say is stronger will be the winner. Let's see who is stronger." Before he finished speaking, the ash wolf behind him howled at the moon and punched out, shaking the mountains and shaking the earth. Enigma Flame Old Man's face was filled with anger, but he was laughing in his heart. As expected, he's still young. Just a few words and he's already enraged. He formed a strange seal with both hands, and a demonic god phantom dyed in dark green flames appeared behind him. It held the Inferno Divine Spear and stabbed at Lang Shiqi. The terrifying law of fire cleansed the void, and the divine spear broke Lang Shiqi's punch. Lang Shiqi clenched his fists, and a loud explosion sounded. The ear-piercing sound of the explosion scattered the surrounding heaven and earth origin qi. His pure physical strength almost tore the void apart. Enigma Flame Old Man's Inferno Divine Spear was directly shattered by the punch, and even the flame divinity behind him shook. What powerful strength! Enigma Flame Old Man was shocked. He finally experienced what the Divine Lotus Fairy felt. If he were to fight Lang Shiqi alone, he would probably be suppressed from start to finish. However, he knew that now was not the best time for Six Directions Spirit Sovereign and the others to make a move. He changed the seal in his hand, and a strange fire god bow condensed in the flame divinity's hand. The dark green flames became more and more gloomy, no longer burning the sky. Instead, they turned into eroding flames. Just the aura alone made his primordial spirit feel a burning pain. Lang Shiqi's body shone with golden light, and the roars of dragons filled the sky. 9 giant dragons burning with raging flames roared out, and the law of fire in the world almost condensed into substance. Half of the sky was dyed red gold. This was the red gold earth dragon flame, which had evolved into its ultimate state and was able to trigger the law of heaven and earth. In an instant, the overbearing burning power of the red gold earth dragon flame began to melt Enigma Flame Old Man's divine phantom. He could not even shoot out the arrows of eroding flames and was forced to retreat. He found it even harder to believe that he would be defeated by flames. There were many spirit cultivators in the world who cultivated flames, but he was the only one in the mystic comprehending realm. This was what he had always been proud of. But now, Lang Shiqi's appearance had almost shattered his belief. Lang Shiqi was proficient in both sword and saber, had a strong physical body, and had even comprehended the law of fire. Why did the heavens allow such a person to exist? Enigma Flame Old Man, who originally had no grudges with Lang Shiqi, felt boundless killing intent for the first time. He secretly shouted, "Why aren't you making a move? What are you waiting for?" In the corner, Qinha's palm fell. The surrounding heaven and earth origin qi instantly condensed and then exploded. The violent power was held in his hand, and even the surrounding void was faintly torn apart. This was the long passed down 9th-level spiritual technique of the Starfall dynasty, the Great Palm Print. At the same time, lotus flowers fell from the sky like rain. Each lotus flower contained a terrifying power. The Divine Lotus Fairy made a hand seal, and countless lotus flowers exploded. Not only did they ignite the power of heaven and earth, but they also cooperated with Qinha's power to seal off all of Lang Shiqi's escape routes. Finally, Six Directions Spirit Sovereign brazenly made his move. Above the 9 heavens, divine light bloomed and tore open the sky. 6 divine statues that seemed to have come from ancient times descended. At this moment, the space seemed to stagnate. The power was so strong that even heaven and earth could not withstand it. It was not the 6 Directions divine statues, but the 6 Directions sacred statues. It was an object that 6 Directions Holy Sovereign had created back then. Every time the 6 Directions sacred statues were used, it would consume a large amount of origin energy. In order to kill Lang Shiqi, 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign did not hold back at all. Lang Shiqi's expression did not change. The 10,000 Beasts Dharma idol instantly appeared around him. The phantom of the divine beast supported him, causing his physical strength to reach the limit. He still threw out a simple punch, but this punch faintly caused the heavens and earth to tremble. The power of the punch, which could shatter all things, directly shattered the great yuan-splitting palm, and even blasted the lotus flowers that filled the sky into pieces. It was also at this moment that the eyes of the 6 sacred statues lit up with a terrifying divine light. It was as if they had come to life. They formed seals one after another, and countless divine light condensed into a heavenly net in midair that fell towards Lang Shiqi. There was the power of wind and fire, as well as the power of life and slaughter, saber force, sword intent, and various other powers. These 6 sacred statues were like 6 mystic comprehending realm elites. Chapter 925. Lang Shiqi mumbled as the holy statues of 6 harmonies descended with boundless divine aura. They do look like Ascension realm cultivators, but it's just a facade. What holy statues of 6 harmonies? They're just a bunch of inanimate objects. The sword will of death exploded, forming 6 sword shadows behind Lang Shiqi. Countless thoughts of death, resentment, and hatred spread out. This was the most extreme sort of evil thoughts in the world, and it should not exist in this world. The 6 sword shadows slashed out instantly, heading straight for the 6 holy statues. In an instant, the laws of heaven and earth shook, and the space exploded. The sword of evil thoughts was far more terrifying than anyone had expected. It broke through the various forces like the heavenly net and landed heavily on the holy statues. With a series of loud bangs, the heavenly net was torn apart, and even the 6 idols had a clear crack on them. How is this possible? 6 Harmony's spiritual supremacy was shocked and furious. What kind of sword principle was that? It could easily break the heavenly net and even damage his holy statues. Each holy statue was personally created by 6 Harmony's spiritual supremacy, and it was not something a Tongxian realm cultivator could break. While he was shocked, his heart was bleeding. Not only did the holy statues he summoned lose their saint power, but they were also damaged. It was as if a piece of his heart had been dug out. Of course, it was impossible to do this with just the sword principle of death. Lang Shiqi had attached a trace of the law of reincarnation to the sword principle of death. Any force that came into contact with the law of reincarnation would be rotated thousands of times in an instant until it disappeared without a trace. The combined attack of 4 Tongxian realm cultivators had been completely neutralized by Lang Shiqi. It's my turn. He smiled coldly. With a flip of his hand, a dark golden brilliance spread out, forming a dark golden canopy hundreds of miles wide in the blink of an eye. Immediately, 6 Harmony's spiritual supremacy and the other 3 Tongxian realm cultivators felt 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold gravity on their bodies. The ground cracked and collapsed continuously, and it only stopped after a few hundred feet. The 4 Tongxian realm cultivators were surrounded by spiritual light of various colors, and the power of law protected their bodies. Even so, it could not hide the shock on their faces. The law of gravity. He has mastered the law of earth as well? No, we're all Tongxian realm cultivators. Why is his gravity suppressing all 4 of us? It's you, it's all you. Other than being shocked, the 4 of them had different reactions. Ying Qinhe, profound flame Taoist, and sacred lotus fairy were even more incredulous. As for 6 Directions spirit sovereign, he seemed to have recalled something. He finally understood that the Tongxian realm cultivator who had stopped him in the imperial capital was Lang Shiqi. That's true, Lang Shiqi. From the beginning to the end, the person who ruined his plans again and again was Lang Shiqi. The 6 Directions spiritual sovereign was seething with anger, and his spiritual power suddenly erupted. He actually forcibly withstood the 10,000-fold gravity and pointed a finger at the sky. Divine light condensed in midair like a cage, wanting to strangle Lang Shiqi within it. Do you think there's only gravity? Lang Shiqi pointed with his finger, and an unremarkable black sphere suddenly appeared near Enigma Flame Maestro. Immediately after, a terrifying suction force emerged from the black sphere. Everything in the surroundings, including the vital energy of heaven and earth, including the power of laws, and even 6 Directions spiritual sovereign's boundless divine light, was forcefully pulled toward this side. This was not a gravitational space, but a space of 2 extremes. What the hell? Enigma Flame Maestro could not help but curse when he saw the divine light surging toward him. He was already resisting the 10,000 times gravity. In a hurry, he closed and opened his eyes, and his eyes turned pitch black, as if they were burning with black flames. It looked extremely evil. Enigma Flame Maestro's aura suddenly skyrocketed. He chanted a strange incantation, and a chilly wind blew in midair. The mournful wails of evil spirits rang out, and the deathly aura and boundless flames condensed into a strange demon god that shattered 6 Directions spiritual sovereign's divine light. The other 3 people were also in a bad situation. They were affected by the gravitational force and the suction force at the same time. The spiritual power in their bodies was constantly churning, and they were almost out of control. The 4 people who were supposed to join forces to kill Lang Shiqi were now suppressed by him alone. He was fighting 1 against 4, but he still had the upper hand. Faced with this situation, 6 Directions spiritual sovereign was furious. Divine Lotus Fairy, Ying Qinhe, why did the 2 of you hold back when you launched the surprise attack? What's the use of using such probing attacks? If you attacked with all your strength, Lang Shiqi would definitely be at a disadvantage and killed by us. How could there be such a situation now? The 2 people's faces were as black as the bottom of a pot. They did hold back, but they did not do it on purpose. On the contrary, they also wanted to kill Lang Shiqi. Moreover, the two of them did indeed block all of Lang Shiqi's escape routes. If it were any other metaphysical realm cultivator, they would have no way to retreat and would have to face the Six Directions sacred statue directly. They had calculated well, but they did not expect Lang Shiqi to be stronger than they had imagined. Six Directions spiritual sovereign knew that it was useless to say these things now. He transmitted his voice. He must have consumed a lot of energy to maintain the law of Earth of this intensity. We will attack with defense. Even if we have to exhaust him, we can still kill him. Also, I hope that no one will continue to hide their strength. If we can't take him down today, not only will we lose face, we will also offend this expert. Then, no one will have a good life in the future. The Divine Lotus Fairy gritted her teeth. Her hands fluttered as she made a series of hand seals. The illusory kingdom descended once again. She used the power of her kingdom to forcefully resist Lang Shiqi's space of two extremes. Lang Shiqi's eyes turned cold. He stretched out his hand and grabbed. In an instant, stars appeared like the Milky Way. Let's see if the power of your kingdom or the power of the stars is stronger. The universe of stars seemed to form a world of its own. It slowly pressed down. The terrifying suppressive force shattered the illusory kingdom in an instant. The Divine Lotus Fairy groaned. Clearly, she had suffered some backlash. An illusory image of a divine lotus appeared behind her. Layers of lotus flowers bloomed one after another, emitting waves of evil light. The white lotus was bewitching. Countless lotus petals danced in the air, but they had the ability to seduce one's soul. Lang Shiqi only glanced at them. His expression froze, and the light in his eyes seemed to be a little sluggish. Quick, I can only restrain him for an instant, the Divine Lotus Fairy immediately shouted. A chance. Enigmatic flame Taoist's figure moved. The black flame demon god raised evil flames that filled the sky. They transformed into ghosts and howled as they charged at Lang Shiqi. Ying Qinha's hands danced. There was no spiritual light, but one could feel the power of law being drawn by him. It was as if invisible threads were condensing. The invisible silk thread couldn't be caught in the slightest trace as it silently wrapped itself around Lang Shiqi's body. At that moment, Lang Shiqi suddenly felt the power in his body rapidly dissipating. It was as if the threads were sucking it away. Six Directions Spirit Sovereign's face flushed red. His body transformed into 6 streaks of spiritual light and sank into the 6 sacred statues. Immediately after, the 6 sacred statues stood there like real people, forming a combined attack array. Myriad phenomena appeared in the sky. In the end, it evolved into a dreamlike and incomparably beautiful Myriad Worlds painting. Chapter 926. The picture of Myriad Worlds was filled with a terrifying power that could sweep across the world and destroy everything in its path. Lang Shiqi seemed to be in a daze as he said slowly, "Illusions? I know them too." He didn't seem to make any movements, but a white light suddenly appeared and spread hundreds of miles away at an extremely fast speed. The consciousness of the 4 people in the space of 2 extremes was immediately attacked and pulled into an illusion in the blink of an eye. Illusions, divine illusion sky. This type of illusion had already surpassed the form of illusions. It directly invaded one's primordial spirit, tampered with one's memories, and changed one's thoughts without one's knowledge. Just like Six Directions spiritual supremacy at this moment, he maintained the picture of Myriad Worlds and was about to crush Lang Shiqi's starry sky universe. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt a sense of fear towards Lang Shiqi. He did not know where this feeling of fear came from, but it was a fear that came from his bones and soul. The intense fear caused Six Directions spiritual supremacy's spiritual energy to become unstable, and the picture of Myriad Worlds even showed signs of collapsing. However, Six Directions spiritual supremacy was not an ordinary person. Although he was afraid, he wanted to kill Lang Shiqi more. Boom boom. The starry sky universe suddenly shattered, and the picture of Myriad Worlds finally suppressed the space of 2 extremes. Under the influence of the space of 2 extremes in the divine illusion sky, you still have such a strong combat power. Six Directions spiritual supremacy is indeed the successor of the 4 sages. Lang Shiqi could not help but think highly of Six Directions spiritual supremacy. He waved one hand, and in an instant, the law of earth surged. 36 earth-shattering dragons broke out from the ground and roared. As the power of earth exploded, the 36 earth-shattering dragons intertwined and tore at the sky. They collided with the picture of myriad worlds. At the same time, Lang Shiqi reached out and grabbed. The blurry starlight transformed into an arm that grabbed Ing Qinhe, who was still in the illusion, tightly. They were both under the divine illusion sky, but Six Directions Spiritual Supremacy's combat power did not decrease, while Ing Qinhe was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Therefore, even though they were both in the mystic comprehending state, the difference in their abilities was huge. At this moment, Ing Qinhe finally regained his senses. However, what awaited him was Lang Shiqi's heaven-shaking fist. As the fist landed, the formless energy around Ing Qinhe's body surged madly, but it was unable to stop it. Lang Shiqi's fist landed squarely on Ing Qinhe. The ferocious power of 10,000 beasts strangled all the meridians in his body, causing his face to contort in an instant. Lang Shiqi then lightly tapped Ing Qinhe's forehead with a finger. Instantly, boundless death energy erupted. The Thunderflame Dynasty's new Tongxian realm expert, Ing Qinhe, had fallen. It had to be said that Ing Qinhe was the weakest of the four. From beginning to end, he posed almost no threat to Lang Shiqi. At most, he could only use some restrictive spiritual techniques. No matter what, he was still a Tongxian realm expert. Perhaps, he had some trump cards that he had yet to use, or perhaps, he was preparing a killing move. However, it was a pity that it was all too late. As the saying goes, it is better to cut off one finger than to injure all 10. Killing one person first would greatly reduce the pressure on the other 3, but the pressure on the other 3 would greatly increase. Lang Shiqi took away Ing Qinhe's soul and said in a low voice, "1." At the side, the Divine Lotus Fairy woke up the moment Lang Shiqi killed Ing Qinhe. She just happened to see the scene of Ing Qinhe's death. A sense of terror arose spontaneously. This was not caused by an illusion. At this moment, the Divine Lotus Fairy truly felt the terror of Lang Shiqi. In a situation of 1 against 4, not only did he easily gain the upper hand, he even killed Ing Qinhe in a few moves. The reason why the 4 of them had to work together to kill Lang Shiqi was because it was too difficult to kill a Tongxian realm expert. But now it seemed that it was not that difficult. Lang Shiqi slightly turned his head and looked at the Divine Lotus Fairy. This glance caused the Divine Lotus Fairy's body to turn cold. She cried out in alarm, "Quickly kill him!" Enigmatic Flame Elder was startled awake. When he saw Ing Qinhe's corpse, his shock was no less than the Divine Lotus Fairy's. Six Directions Spirit Elder held up the Myriad Worlds map and saw that the 30 Earth Dragons had been destroyed. He was about to speak when Lang Shiqi casually shot out a gray sword chi. However, it was this inconspicuous sword chi that made Six Directions Spirit Elder feel an extremely terrifying threat. It also made him swallow back the words he was about to say. Lang Shiqi no longer paid attention to Six Directions Spirit Elder. He moved his hands. One hand shone with resplendent starlight, while the other hand was surrounded by black chi. Divine Lotus Fairy and Enigmatic Flame Elder were about to counterattack when the scene in front of them suddenly changed. Enigmatic Flame Elder appeared in a vast universe. The galaxy flowed, and nebulas filled the air. Suddenly, the nebulas began to slowly rotate. It seemed slow, but in the blink of an eye, they condensed into 6 huge whirlpools the size of the sky. 6 completely different but powerful forces were emitted. Enigmatic Flame Elder's spiritual power erupted, and flames rose around him. However, what shocked him was that the flames he had cultivated his entire life were suppressed by more than half here. He originally wanted to summon Demon God Black Flame, but he couldn't even summon a prototype. Only now did he realize that in this universe, the power of law was abnormally thin. In other words, he couldn't even use half of his strength. For the first time, Enigmatic Flame Elder felt despair. If he continued to fight, he would very likely follow in Ing Qinhe's footsteps. He said with a slight panic, "No, this old man has no enmity with you. This old man was just tempted by the benefits. This old man will retreat now. In the future, wherever you go, this old man will retreat 10,000 miles." Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, countless monsters emerged from the 6 vortexes. Some were like indifferent gods, some were humans, and most of them were all kinds of strange creatures. Enigmatic Flame Elder's body was instantly devoured by the countless monsters. Not even his bones were left. On the other side, the Divine Lotus Fairy had arrived in darkness. The extreme darkness made it so that she couldn't even see herself. The Divine Lotus Fairy moved her hand seals, and golden lotuses shone around her, illuminating her surroundings. However, there was nothing here, only darkness. Then, she suddenly realized that her golden lotuses were actually being devoured by the darkness. What was even more terrifying was that no matter how many golden lotuses she summoned, they no longer appeared. It was as if they had been ruthlessly devoured by the darkness as soon as they appeared. When the last golden lotus around her dissipated, only endless darkness remained. Even if she used all her strength, she couldn't create the slightest bit of light. She, a dignified Tongxian realm expert, was actually trapped in darkness. If Leng Shiqi attacked at this time, she definitely wouldn't be able to resist. She began to panic. In fact, without her noticing, the darkness had already begun to devour her body. Starting from her fingernails, slowly to her hands and feet, to her heart, to her head. By the time the Divine Lotus Fairy noticed this, her hands and feet were already gone. Ah! In the boundless darkness, there was only her scream, and nothing else. In the space of two extremes, enigmatic Flame Elder and Divine Lotus Fairy's bodies disappeared at the same time, and then they never appeared again. Leng Shiqi clapped his hands and said, "3 now." Chapter 927. Enigmatic Flame Elder and Divine Lotus Fairy disappeared one after another. 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign's eyelids twitched when he saw this. However, he was not in the mood to care and could only try his best to resist the grey sword chi. The seemingly ordinary sword chi directly pierced through the myriad worlds painting. Wherever the sword chi went, the myriad worlds and heavens were destroyed. 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign was shocked and furious. He controlled the 6 Directions holy statue to continuously transform the heavens before he could block the sword chi. What sword chi is this? How can it be so terrifying? 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign could not understand. The myriad worlds painting that he had used all his strength to display was already his strongest trump card, but it had almost failed to block that sword chi. How strong was Leng Shiqi? Every time Leng Shiqi attacked, it would overturn everyone's understanding of him. Not long ago, 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign used his spirit eyes to see the battle between Leng Shiqi and Divine Lotus Fairy from afar and recognized Leng Shiqi's identity. However, at that time, Leng Shiqi's strength was only at the middle level of the Mystic Comprehending Realm. Although there was no specific division in the Mystic Comprehending Realm, the more laws one comprehended, the stronger one would naturally become. The dozen or so Mystic Comprehending Realm cultivators in the world could be divided into 3 levels. The first level was those who had just entered the Mystic Comprehending Realm like Ying Qin He. It was extremely difficult to comprehend the laws, and they had only cultivated for a short time, so their strength was naturally at the bottom. The second level was those like Divine Lotus Fairy and Enigmatic Flame Elder. They had lived for hundreds of years, so their foundation and laws were definitely not weak. It was a pity that they were independent cultivators after all. Although they could easily create an extraordinary organization with their strength, they were nowhere close to organizations like the Yin and Yang Halls, the 3 Empires, and the 4 Saint spiritual realms that had existed for ages. The strongest group was naturally the Mystic Comprehending Realm cultivators mentioned above. 6 Directions Spirit Sovereign felt that his strength could definitely rank in the top 5 among all the Mystic Comprehending Realm cultivators. When Leng Shiqi had faced the joint attack of the 4, he had neutralized their attacks one by one. The strength he had displayed was clearly stronger than Enigma Flame Maestro's. At that time, 6 Directions Spirit Senior had also been slightly surprised. In his heart, he still believed that Leng Shiqi could not possibly be stronger than him. However, as Leng Shiqi used the space of 2 extremes, the star universe and the divine illusion sky, he used the law of earth, the law of stars, and the law of illusion respectively. After that, he killed Ying Qinhe with a single strike. The fate of Enigma Flame Old Man and Divine Lotus Fairy was unknown. How could a person cultivate so many different laws at the same time? Was he still human? At this moment, 6 Directions Spiritual Supremacy had to admit that he was no match for Leng Shiqi. What was the upper limit of Leng Shiqi's strength? How many people in the world could defeat him? The most frightening thing was that when Leng Shiqi stretched out his 5 fingers, 6 gray sword energies appeared behind him at the same time. There were 6 of them. Just one of them had almost caused 6 Directions Spiritual Lord's universe map to collapse. 6 streaks of sword aura? What a joke! 6 Directions Spiritual Lord's heart was filled with regret. Why did he have to kill Leng Shiqi and provoke such a terrifying existence? Of course he was more afraid. That's right, the arrogant Six Directions spiritual lord was afraid. He knew that he could not withstand the 6 streaks of sword aura and could only escape now. To think that he, the great Six Directions spiritual lord, had joined forces with 3 ethereal comprehending cultivators to kill Lang Shiqi. In the end, 3 of them died, and he had to escape pathetically. This was the biggest joke in the world. However, Six Directions spiritual lord had underestimated the power of the sword aura. The 6 streaks of sword aura seemed to have crossed space and swept past the universe map, heading straight for the Six Directions holy statue. Six Directions spiritual lord's divine thought was attached to the Six Directions holy statue. He was shocked and immediately left the Six Directions holy statue. The divine light around him shone brightly and vaguely formed a magic array. With a series of crisp sounds, the indestructible Six Directions holy statue was shattered and turned into powder. When Lang Shiqi saw the magic array, he recalled that Six Directions spiritual lord had traveled tens of thousands of miles to reach the Blood Garment Pavilion. It must be a magic array similar to the interdomain teleportation formation. If Six Directions spiritual lord escaped, there would be endless trouble in the future. He did not hide his strength anymore. With a wave of his hand, tens of thousands of streaks of sword aura swept across heaven and earth. Each streak of sword aura was the same sword aura that had easily destroyed the Six Directions holy statue. Six Directions spiritual lord's movements instantly froze. He was completely stunned. It was only at this moment that he realized that there was an almost undetectable light gray thread lingering around each of the sword aura. It was these threads that made the sword aura so powerful. Tens of thousands of streaks of sword aura sliced through heaven and earth. The void shattered and instantly engulfed Six Directions spiritual lord. Law thread you are. Heaven reaching. At the moment of his death, Six Directions spiritual lord finally understood. Lang Shiqi was not in the heavenly origin realm, nor was he in the Tongxian realm. Instead, he was in the legendary Tongxian realm. Comprehending the power of the laws of heaven and earth was the Tongxian realm. Comprehending a certain law to the extreme would allow one to materialize the law and condense the law thread. At this time, a spirit cultivator would be half a step into the Tongxian realm. Next, as long as he passed the Tongxian tribulation, he would be recognized by heaven and earth. From then on, he would stand above the 9 heavens and look down on all living things. This was the Tongxian realm. However, a Tongxian realm cultivator had not appeared for a long time. Only then did Six Directions spiritual lord realize how stupid he was. He actually took the initiative to ambush and kill a Tongxian realm cultivator. He did not die in vain. Lang Shiqi took Six Directions spiritual lord's soul and was satisfied. He opened the territory system interface. Mansion of the Dead's current level. Rank 8. Mansion of the Dead's upgrade requirements. 1. Accumulate 500,000 merit points. 24315500000. 2. Collect 2 super souls, 410. 3. 1280000 system coins. Initially, he planned to take advantage of the opening of the Holy City and the gathering of all the Tongxian realm cultivators in the world to complete one of the Mansion of the Dead's upgrade requirements. Kill 10 Tongxian realm cultivators. Originally, he thought it would be a little troublesome. Now, 4 of them came to him. After this battle, Lang Shiqi clearly knew that his strength was far above the Tongxian realm. He had comprehended the law of reincarnation and condensed the law thread. However, he did not receive the Tongxian tribulation again, so he was not sure whether he was in the Tongxian realm or not. He had once fought with Meng Tianzong, who had recovered his cultivation. Both of them were evenly matched. Of course, that was just a spar and not a fight to the death. In the past 10 years, he had never stopped accumulating his strength. He had constantly tapped into his potential and comprehended many kinds of law powers. He knew that no matter how many law powers he had, they would not be of much use when facing the will of heaven and earth. However, his opponents were not only the will of heaven and earth, but also many spirit cultivators. Today's battle was just a practice for him. When he could fight a Tongxian realm cultivator head-on, he would know how strong he was. After a simple rest, Lang Shiqi prepared to continue searching for the passage out of the falling star continent. At this moment, Tu Deng sent a message through the Mansion of the Dead. Found it. Chapter 928. There was no sun, moon, or stars in this world fragment, and the sky was bare. The only exception was the starry sky that spanned several miles. The stars formed a mystical pattern, and two figures were standing under the star map, facing each other. One of them was wearing a kasaya, and his hands were clasped together in a benevolent manner. He was Tu Deng. Tu Deng established Buddhism in the falling star continent, and he comprehended Buddhist techniques from the scriptures. He had already jumped out of the cultivation system of this world. The current Buddhism was the state religion of the West Province, and its disciples were all over the West Province. There were even many believers in the Falling Star Dynasty and Thunderfire Dynasty. Standing opposite him was Huang Wei Ling Zun of the Four Saints spiritual realm. Huang Wei Ling Zun stared at Tu Deng. Whether it was Tu Deng's strange attire or the aura he had never seen before, they all made him very curious. Of course, other than curiosity, there was more fear. Both sides had already fought before, and Huang Wei Ling Zun had suffered a loss with just one move. He quietly glanced at the star map above his head. Those stars were slowly moving, and they vaguely formed a door. A faint trace of world energy was emitted. Huang Wei Ling Zun, who knew ancient secrets, naturally guessed that it was most likely a legend passed down by his ancestors, the passage to leave the falling star continent. Huang Wei Ling Zun had been in the mystic comprehending realm for a long time, especially in the past 100 years, and he felt that if he continued to waste his energy like this, he would probably die of old age in this realm. Only by leaving the falling star continent and going to a wider world could he have a chance to break through again. The reason why Tu Deng and Huang Wei Ling Zun were staring at each other was not only because the door had not been completed, but also because there was a layer of formation under the star map. This formation did not have any grades, or it would be more appropriate to describe it as a simple restriction. It was the kind of restriction that an ordinary spiritual pulse realm expert could casually set up, and it had a certain blocking effect. However, the power of this restriction was actually the power of the Holy Spirit. Only Holy Spirit realm experts like the Four Saints could control this power. It could only be said that it was a fantasy to rely on their power to break this restriction. The crux of the matter was that neither of them was proficient in formations, and it was impossible for them to leave so easily. They could only stare at each other here. After Tu Deng fought with Huang Wei Spirit Sage, he contacted Lang Shiqi. Through the underworld, Lang Shiqi immediately rushed over. However, he didn't directly appear beside Tu Deng. Instead, he appeared several dozen li away and released his mystic comprehending aura without concealing it. Huang Wei Spiritual Sovereign quickly sensed this aura and frowned. Of course, he didn't want more people to find this place. However, he also hoped that there would be one or two formation-breaking experts. Perhaps they would have a way to break the restriction. When Lang Shiqi arrived, Huang Wei Ling Zun revealed a puzzled expression and immediately said, "You have hidden yourself quite deeply. What is your name?" Lang Shiqi. You are the Thunderfire Dynasty's king of the West Desolation. I didn't expect you to break through to the mystic comprehending realm at such a young age. Impressive. Huang Wei Ling Zun made some small talk and then asked, "Are you proficient in formations?" Lang Shiqi raised his head and looked at the restriction and the star field map. He understood and then shook his head. "I am ashamed, I have never dabbled in formations." He also felt that it was a pity. He was the first to find the clues of the passage, but he was blocked by a restriction. Lang Shiqi transmitted his voice. "Great Master Tu Deng, is this restriction really unbreakable?" Actually, this old monk was the first to discover this place. I tried to move it, but I couldn't move it at all. Tu Deng's true strength was definitely above the mystic comprehending realm. Even he couldn't do anything to the restriction. It seemed that it was indeed a restriction set up by a Holy Spirit realm expert. Right now, they could only use the stupidest method, which was to wait. The space of this world fragment wasn't too big. With the speed of a mystic comprehending realm expert, it would only take a few days to go around it. It was only a matter of time before they discovered this place. They could only wait for the remaining mystic comprehending realm experts to gather. Perhaps there would be someone who knew how to break the restriction. Although there were only 13 mystic comprehending realm experts who came in and 4 of them died, that didn't include Lang Shiqi and Tu Deng. Moreover, they weren't just mystic comprehending realm experts. Tu Deng, Meng Tianzong, and Lang Shiqi had the battle strength of 3 mystic comprehending realm experts. In addition, Meng Tianzong had predicted that there would be other mystic comprehending realm experts entering the holy city. If they couldn't break the restriction with such a powerful force, Lang Shiqi would admit defeat. Sure enough, after 2 days, there were more than 10 people gathered in front of the starfield map. As for the heaven origin realm experts of the Thunderfire dynasty, they didn't come over. Instead, they went to look for all kinds of treasures. Strangely, there were a few unfamiliar faces among these people. For example, the beggar, the blue-robed man, and the disfigured youth. In addition to Tu Deng and Lang Shiqi, almost half of the people in this group were mystic comprehending realm experts that the world didn't know. On the contrary, the veteran mystic comprehending realm experts like Six Directions Spirit Sovereign and Enigmatic Flame Elder didn't come. Wuma Yuanjia of the Starfall dynasty frowned because Ing Qinhe didn't appear either. Could it be that something happened? There isn't much danger in this secret realm, and no one can easily kill him. That's strange. Luo Ying's Spirit Sovereign glanced at them one by one. She stroked her lips and said, "Haha, there are indeed crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the Starfall continent. Luo Ying admires the few of you who are willing to remain silent and don't care about power and glory." Huang Wei Spirit Sovereign interrupted. "There's no need for pleasantries. Since you're able to come here, you must know the secret. Now, whether or not you can break this restriction is the key. I don't know about the others, but Luo Ying, you're an expert in the art of formations." Luo Ying's Spirit Sovereign beamed. "I've already seen the restriction. It's easy to break it, but it's also difficult." Her words instantly attracted everyone's attention. Wu Ji Spirit Sovereign hurriedly said, "Let's hear it." "The restriction isn't complicated at all. It's just casually laid down. It's just that the person who laid down the restriction is an unreachable sacred spirit expert. If we want to break the restriction, we can't use brute force, but we also need to use brute force. First of all, the strength of a sacred spirit expert is beyond our reach. However, the power of this restriction won't regenerate. As long as we continue to attack the restriction and slowly wear it down, we'll be able to break it sooner or later. According to what you said, it's too slow. Who knows when we'll be able to break the restriction? The hundreds of heaven origin realm experts outside could come in at any time. Their strength isn't strong, but if they join forces, they'll cause us quite a bit of trouble." Huang Wei Spirit Sovereign said in a deep voice. "I naturally won't use such a stupid method. We can lay down a joint attack formation and then concentrate all of our strength on a single point. It'll be much easier to break the restriction. Perhaps it won't be long before we'll be able to break the restriction." Chapter 929. The method was not that brilliant, but it seemed to be the only way. Luo Ying's Spirit Elder quietly glanced at Jade Forest and Pure Yang Temple's Tongxian realm experts. Among the people present, these two had not spoken a word from the beginning to the end. It seemed that no one had seen them make a move, making them extremely mysterious. She rolled her eyes and said to Huang Wei Spirit Elder, "It is said that Huang Wei's spiritual domain has a sword that surpasses the 9th rank. It is the Huang Wei Sacred Sword that was left behind by Huang Wei Sacred Venerable. I suggest that we gather all our strength and put it into the Huang Wei Sacred Sword. This way, we will have a higher chance of breaking the formation." "Luo Ying, you." Huang Wei's Spirit Elder was a little angry. The Huang Wei Sacred Sword was their spiritual domain's most precious treasure and a hidden trump card. Just like how most of the Tongxian realm experts knew that Six Directions Spirit Elder had the powerful Six Directions Divine Statues, they did not know that he actually had Six Directions Divine Statues that had been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years. This was the foundation of the 4 sacred domains. However, this trump card was revealed by Luo Ying's Spirit Elder in front of everyone. This was extremely disadvantageous for Huang Wei's Spirit Elder in future battles. Others would definitely be on guard against the Huang Wei Sacred Sword. Luo Ying's Spirit Elder smiled and said, "Huang Wei Spirit Elder, don't hide it. After all, breaking the formation is beneficial to everyone." She directly used everyone to pressure Huang Wei's Spirit Elder. As expected, a few of them spoke. Huang Wei's Spirit Elder's face was extremely gloomy. While he was still hesitating, the expert from Pure Yang Temple said, "Take out the Huang Wei Sacred Sword. This formation will definitely be broken." Jade Forest from Nether Temple also said under Lang Shiqi's signal, "Don't waste time." The 2 experts from Yin and Yang Temple both spoke. Although the two of them did not make a move, there was naturally a reason why Yin and Yang Temple could be ranked above the 3 great empires and 4 sacred domains. Huang Wei's spirit elder could no longer withstand the pressure and could only snort. He flipped his hand and took out a heavy treasure sword. This sword looked extremely simple. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary bronze sword. No one would associate it with the Huang Wei sacred sword. Spirit Supremacy Luo Ying handed over the joint attack formation to everyone. Even if the others present did not specialize in formations, everyone's comprehension was absolutely superb. They did not need to comprehend it at all and could directly master it through a comprehensive study. Our powers are all different. If we attack without a purpose, it will instead affect each other. We only need to channel our power into the Royal Might Sacred Sword through the formation. Spirit Sovereign Luo Ying explained. Everyone nodded one after another. Sovereign Might Spirit Sovereign unleashed a sword art, and the Sovereign Might Sacred Sword suddenly blossomed with a golden holy light that illuminated 10,000 miles. The brilliant holy aura made everyone feel an indescribable pressure. It was as if there was a voice in their hearts telling them, "Kneel." However, these people's wills were as firm as stone. They quickly stabilized their minds. There were also a few people who looked at the Royal Might Sacred Sword with covetous looks in their eyes. No one dared to waste any more time. The power of laws surged as they all focused on the Royal Might Sacred Sword. The Spirit Venerable Royal Aura slashed out and pierced the restriction. With a loud bang, everyone was forced back by a powerful vibration. No one paid any attention to this. They were all staring at the restriction. The restriction shook slightly, and he could vaguely see that the restriction had become thinner. It was really useful. Everyone's expression was shocked. However, the Spirit Venerable Royal Aura's expression turned cold. Everyone, this Venerable did not hide anything. However, some people did not use their full strength. Once this was said, everyone began to have their own ulterior motives. Some people might really be hiding their strength. After all, no one could put their full strength on the table. Being pointed out by the Spirit Venerable Royal Aura, no one's face looked good. However, not long ago, they had forced the Spirit Venerable Royal Aura to take out his trump card. The Spirit Venerable Royal Aura sneered. What? Did this Venerable say something wrong? With the Royal Might Sacred Sword in hand, this Venerable knows best that Luo Ying and Wu Ji's strength is actually at the bottom among everyone. Even if you are slacking, there should be a limit. Also, this brother from the Pure Yang Temple, you transferred the least amount of power to the Sacred Sword. As the dignified Yin and Yang Temple, you can't only have this much ability, right? Being called out in public, the faces of the Spirit Venerable Luo Ying and Spirit Venerable Wu Ji turned ashen. They did not expect the Spirit Venerable Royal Aura to be able to sense everyone's strength so clearly. As for the person from the Pure Yang Temple, he was still a man of few words and did not say a single word. Continue. This Venerable does not wish for anyone to hide their strength. The breaking of the array continued. Everyone went all out and only took half an hour to break the restriction. The instant the array was broken, everyone could not help but sigh. Sure enough, only the Sacred Spirit Sword could deal with the restriction left behind by a Sacred Spirit expert. It was also at this moment that the power of star splendor suddenly bloomed. That majestic power seemed to directly break through this world, causing everyone to be shocked. It turned out that the star field map was not just a door. Even those stars contained boundless power. If they could absorb the power within, they might be able to take a step forward and advance to the connecting heaven realm. Everyone's heart began to heat up. Suddenly, the Spirit Venerable Luo Ying exclaimed, this aura is... The expression of the Spirit Venerable Royal Aura, who had put away the sacred sword, also changed slightly. The Spirit Venerable Wu Ji's eyes were filled with doubt. It's the aura of the star race. Finally, the expert from the Pure Yang Temple said such a sentence. Everyone's expression turned cold. The star race could be said to be the taboo of taboos in the falling star continent. No one dared to casually mention it. But now, the people from the Pure Yang Temple actually said that the aura of the star race had appeared in the holy city. Moreover, looking at the expressions of the Spirit Venerable Luo Ying and the others, it seemed that they were not wrong. It was said that the holy city was built by the 4 saints. Why was there the power of the star race inside? They all had such doubts in their hearts, but at this time, no one cared about it. Chen Xian of the Northern Wei Empire directly rushed into the star field. He did not care about the star race. He did not care much about the door. He only wanted to get those stars. Of course, the others could not sit back and do nothing. The sword of the spirit venerable royal aura slashed down. This sword seemed ordinary, but when the sword fell, it instantly exploded. Sword splitting mountains and rivers. Chen Xian pointed out a finger, and a sword light suddenly rose up. Without any attributes, it was the purest sword light. It was also a sword light that displayed the power of the sword principle to the extreme. The long sword tore apart the sword move of the spirit venerable royal aura, but the light of the sword principle was still shining between heaven and earth, and did not dissipate for a long time. The spirit venerable royal aura was slightly stunned, and the others who were about to snatch the stars also slowed down. It was because Chen Xian's strength was far beyond what they knew about him. As everyone knew, the Northern Wei Empire was the weakest among the three empires. Chen Xian, the guardian of the Northern Wei Empire, was at most at the middle level of the metaphysic realm. But the amazing sword move just now had broken the sword move of the spirit venerable royal aura. This move alone showed that his strength was not weaker than the spirit venerable royal aura. The water was getting muddier and muddier. Chapter 930. However, no matter how powerful Chen Xian was, it was impossible for him to suppress so many strong men in the metaphysical state. The sword radiance in Chen Xian's hand split into thousands of beams. The wind and clouds were surging between the sky and the earth. His Tao of the sword was the purest Tao of the sword in this world. There was only the sword, only the sword. Unlike Lang Shiqi, he didn't integrate the will of death and the law of reincarnation into his Tao of the sword, nor did he have the spiritual venerable spirit qi that could break mountains and rivers. Chen Xian's pure Tao of the sword didn't have any attributes, but it had the sharpest sword intent in the world. This burst of sword intent forced people to temporarily avoid its sharp edge, but in this instant, he had already plucked a star. Then, he ignored everyone else and left the place. Some people wanted to stop him, but they realized there were still many stars, more than 20 of them. There was no need to fight with him for the one in Chen Xian's hand. However, someone stopped him. It was the strong man from the Pure Yang Temple. "You can't leave," Chen Xian said in a hoarse voice. "There are so many stars. I'll only take one. Go away. Not even one less. You're courting death." Chen Xian unsheathed his sword. It was a strange long sword without a hilt. The pure extreme sword intent soared into the sky and shocked the gods with one strike. The strong man from the Pure Yang Temple was surrounded by 9 suns that lit up the world. The whole space fragment was filled with dazzling light. There seemed to be a dragon's shadow in each of the suns. As he punched, the 9 dragons roared out and swept over the world. Chen Xian's shocking sword intent melted like snow in the spring. Such a commotion caused those Tongxian realm cultivators who had just started to fight for the stars to stop. The pure yang energy that surged towards them caused their breathing to stop, and the might that reached the heavens caused boundless waves to surge in their hearts. It was even more so for Chen Xian. He was facing the pure yang energy directly. At the moment, the pure yang energy had entered his body. There was a warm feeling in his body, but the energy damaged his meridians one after another. Puff. Chen Xian couldn't help but spit out blood. He said in shock. The reaching heaven state? The blue-robed man over there asked. "Who are you?" He only said 4 words. "Pure Yang's sacred master." Hearing these words, everyone was speechless. Who didn't know that you were the Pure Yang's sacred master? You're just wasting your breath. The Pure Yang Temple has not appeared in the world for thousands of years. As for Huang Wei's spiritual sovereign, he suddenly recalled that not long ago, he had mocked and ridiculed the Pure Yang's sacred master. Now that he thought about it, he felt a chill run down his spine. Lang Shiqi, who had seen all of this, did not care about this. Although he was surprised that the Pure Yang sacred master was in the Ascension realm, he was already mentally prepared. What he cared about the most was what the Pure Yang sacred master had said. Not one less. Lang Shiqi looked at the star chart again. Some of the brightest stars were moving slowly, roughly forming a portal. These stars will eventually become a portal. It's very likely to be the channel that the Lord of Samsara mentioned. The reason why the Pure Yang sacred master had stopped Chen Xian was because he couldn't let a single star go missing. He actually knew about this. What kind of existence is the Pure Yang Temple? He also remembered how Huang Wei's spiritual sovereign had mocked the Pure Yang Sacred Master. At that time, the Pure Yang Sacred Master had contributed the least. Now that he thought about it, it was probably because he had not appeared in the world for a long time and did not know how much power a Tongxian realm cultivator had. While everyone was still in shock, a figure appeared in the star chart like a ghost. More than half of the Tongxian realm cultivators did not notice his existence. Only 5 people in the crowd turned to look at him. That person simply waved his hand and took away a few stars. He laughed sinisterly and said, "So what if you're in the Ascension realm? When I refine the power of these stars, I'll definitely advance to the Ascension realm. At that time, I'll come and ask the Pure Yang Sacred Master for advice." After that person finished speaking, his figure started to fade, as if he was about to disappear. It's Night Demon. What a strange movement technique. He actually dares to provoke a Ascension realm cultivator. I'm afraid he hasn't lived long enough. Not necessarily. Night Demon cultivates the law of phantom. If he wants to escape, even an Ascension realm cultivator might not be able to catch him. The others immediately recognized this person. He was the last rogue cultivator among the original 13 Tongxian realm cultivators. This person could be said to be extremely daring. Normally, he would purposely provoke a few Tongxian realm cultivators. He relied on his invincible escape technique and no one could do anything to him. He had formed many grudges. Seeing this, the Pure Yang Sacred Master's expression did not change. He did not even have any plans to make a move. However, Lang Shiqi realized that the Pure Yang Sacred Master was looking at him. It seemed like the Sacred Master had already seen through Lang Shiqi's strength and knew that he was definitely not in the Tongxian realm. Lang Shiqi naturally would not let Night Demon escape with the stars. Just as he was about to make a move, someone was faster than him. He was Tu Deng. Tu Deng took a step forward and appeared in front of Night Demon. His Buddha Dharma idol appeared and slammed out with his palm. Countless palm shadows descended, each of them having a physical form and each of them containing a shocking amount of power. The palm shadows sealed the space. Night Demon was shocked. Tu Deng's palm strength was far beyond what he could withstand. It even resembled the Pure Yang Sacred Master stance just now. Night Demon did not dare to take it head-on. His figure became dimmer and he escaped into the void. He only wanted to escape. Who would have thought that Tu Deng would suddenly let out a loud shout? It was like a tangible sound wave. Everyone present felt that it was very normal, but in Yi Mei's ears, it was like a great bell, exploding with a loud bang. Night Demon's figure paused and his face turned pale. He felt that his soul was constantly twisting, as if it was about to split open. He knew that if he delayed any longer, he would definitely die. Night Demon made a prompt decision. He burned his soul and escaped into the void by force. Tu Deng put his palms together and the golden Arhut avatar appeared behind him. A strong wave of energy burst out from his body. He sat on the ground and chanted scriptures. Instantly, everyone was shocked to find that the Arhut avatar behind him had started to split into thousands. There were not only Arhats, but also Bodhisattvas and Buddhas. All of them bowed to him. Million Buddhas greeting. Night Demon's figure was forced out of the void. He could not move under the pressure of the million Buddhas. As long as Tu Deng had the intention to kill, he could easily take his life right now. Everyone was stunned. First, there was Chen Xian and Jian Jing. Then there was the Pure Yang Sacred Master. But now, this weirdly dressed, unknown person was also a reaching heaven state expert who had the ability to shock the heavens. It was unbelievable that 2 reaching heaven state cultivators had appeared. Originally, these mystic comprehending cultivators, especially the spiritual venerables from the 4 sacred spiritual region, thought that they were the main characters. Now that 2 mystic comprehending cultivators had appeared, it meant that they had completely lost the right to compete. At the end of the day, they were just insignificant characters. Chapter 931. Chen Xian attacked, and a Pure Yang Sacred Master appeared. Night Demon attacked, and another Tu Deng appeared. Good heavens! 2 reaching heaven states were just standing there in front of everyone. It seemed that whoever touched the star would attract reaching heaven state warriors. Who would dare to fight for it? Lang Shiqi pointed out a finger, and the power of death burst out, instantly penetrating Night Demon's head. The few stars he snatched away spun around and flew back into the sky. Night Demon was suppressed by the 10,000 Buddhas to the point that he couldn't resist at all. He died so easily. How could a Tongxian realm cultivator, whose name had shaken the world, die so easily? If the pure Yang Sacred Master's attack made everyone feel the power of a reaching heaven realm cultivator, then Tu Deng's attack made them feel the terror of a reaching heaven realm cultivator. Luo Ying Spirit Sovereign, Huang Wei Spirit Sovereign, and the others who were scheming against each other just now felt that they were just like clowns jumping around. What fighting openly and secretly? What deceiving soldiers? In the face of absolute strength, everything was useless. Now, no one dared to fight for any of the stars. The mystic comprehending realm cultivators, who were usually high and mighty, stood there fearfully. They were afraid that the pure Yang Sacred Master or Tu Deng would end up like Night Demon. The pure Yang Sacred Master looked at Tu Deng and said, "Your power is very strange. You are also very strong. You flatter me." Tu Deng only said 2 words, then stopped talking. The pure Yang Sacred Master looked at the starfield map and said, "The passage is about to open. If you want to go in, go in. However, no one knows whether the passage will be a blessing or a curse. No one can predict whether you will live or die." Everyone started to hesitate. Some of them had strong wills, while others started to waver. Very soon, spiritual Venerable Wu Ji and Chen Xin of the Northern Wei Empire retreated one after another. Spiritual Sovereign Wu Ji was the weakest in the 4 sacred spiritual region, and his presence was also the weakest. He didn't have a strong desire to go to another continent. Chen Xin had the heavy responsibility of protecting the Northern Wei Empire. If something happened to him, the Northern Wei Empire would change hands. Lang Shiqi transmitted his voice to Old Man Qiao. "Old man, a reaching heaven realm cultivator has appeared. The passage must be very dangerous. The Thunderblaze Empire can't do without you. Why don't you not go in?" This old man has the same idea. "Let's go." "No, I want to go in." "What?" Old Man Qiao couldn't help but be surprised. In his mind, Lang Shiqi had infinite potential, and he might even break through the reaching heaven state in the future. There was no need for him to take risks. Lang Shiqi explained, "This Master Tuding is my good friend. With his protection, I won't be in much danger." Old Master Qiao remembered that after Night Demon was suppressed, it was Lang Shiqi who killed her. It seemed that what he said was true. Since there's a reaching heaven state expert protecting them, you can go in and explore. Who knows, you might be able to obtain some fated chances. However, you have to be extremely careful. Don't act rashly. Staying alive is the most important thing. Old Man Qiao warned him, then left. As for the Jade Forest, he still had an important mission. In the end, Wuma Yuanjia of the Starfall dynasty hesitated for a moment before leaving as well. Ying Qinhe still had not shown up. Perhaps something had really happened to her. He had to go and look for her. If Ying Qinhe died here, the burden of the Starfall dynasty would fall on his shoulders again. Coincidentally, the reaching heaven state experts from the 3 dynasties had all left. They were the fetters brought by the dynasties. They could also be considered burdens. No one looked down on the departure of these 5 people. After all, everyone had their own choices and paths. As the stars revolved, it didn't take long for the stars to form a portal, from which a peculiar aura flowed out. It was an aura that they had never felt on the Starfall continent. Everyone knew what was going on, but no one dared to make the first move. The pure Yang Sacred Master took a step forward and went through the portal. Tuding turned into a wisp of Buddhist light and followed him. Only after the 2 reaching heaven state experts went in did the rest of the people follow. This time they weren't separated. When they went through the portal, they saw a strange and terrifying scene. What entered their eyes was a vast wasteland. Plants that they had never seen before grew everywhere. However, these plants were all withered. The ground was cracked. The wasteland and the aura of decay were everywhere. Other than that, there were spatial cracks scattered in the sky and all around the wasteland. Those present were either reaching heaven or mystic realm experts. They could easily see thousands of miles away. This scene was everywhere. They couldn't confirm anything else, but at least they knew that they were no longer on the Starfall continent. The old beggar suddenly said, "Look, those spatial cracks are constantly twisting. They will even appear and disappear for no reason. Once they encounter them, reaching heaven state experts might be able to save themselves. As for mystic realm experts, they can only pray for themselves. Spirit Sovereign Luo Ying had a strange expression. Although what the old beggar said was true, the two reaching heaven state experts had yet to speak. He wasn't afraid of causing trouble. The more Lang Shiqi looked at the old beggar, the more he couldn't see through him. He secretly sent a message to Tuding. Tuding turned around and asked, "Although I haven't seen many experts in the world, I have heard of them." "I have never heard of you before. May I know your name?" "Hee hee." The old beggar smiled, revealing 2 rows of yellow teeth. There seemed to be some stains on them, making him look extremely sloppy. "Old beggar, how can I have a name? Everyone calls me old beggar. I was just lucky enough to cultivate a bit." "Lucky?" No one believed him. If he was lucky enough to cultivate to such a realm, there wouldn't be so few experts in the world. Seeing the old beggar's stubbornness, Tuding also gave up on probing. At this moment, the door they came in from suddenly closed, completely cutting off their path of retreat. This increased the pressure in everyone's hearts. "Don't panic. Since we are here, let's go in and explore." The old beggar had become more talkative after coming here. "No matter what, I still suggest that we work together to ensure everyone's safety." This suggestion was naturally approved by all the mystic realm experts. The key was whether the two reaching heaven states were willing to bring them along. The Pure Yang Sacred Master and Tuding both nodded silently. Huang Wei Spirit Sovereign and the others relaxed. If they could follow these two reaching heaven states, they could at least avoid a lot of danger. Lang Shiqi, Tuding, the Pure Yang Sacred Master, the old beggar, the blue-robed man, the disfigured youth, Luo Ying Spirit Sovereign, and Huang Wei Spirit Sovereign began to explore the interior of the wasteland. As there were spatial cracks everywhere, they didn't choose to fly. Instead, they relied on their movement techniques to move steadily on the ground. After a long time, the scenery of the wasteland remained the same. No one encountered any danger. Until the second day, they discovered something that overturned everyone's knowledge. Chapter 932. Everyone saw a skeleton. In this empty space, there was a skeleton lying inexplicably. No matter how they looked at it, it was extremely strange. Everyone went forward to take a look, full of vigilance. They found that the skeleton was very complete, and every bone was golden in color. More importantly, it was clearly a corpse, but it was still emitting traces of holy aura. This was the skeleton of a Holy Spirit expert. The skeleton fell in the opposite direction from where they came from, which meant that this former Holy Spirit expert's goal was the direction they came from. That door. Many guesses appeared in everyone's mind, and everyone guessed one possibility. This Holy Spirit expert wanted to return to the falling star continent through the door, but he died halfway. Legend said that this should be the passage to leave the falling star continent, but in fact, the space they were in now was no longer the falling star continent. They had waited for a long time and spent a lot of twists and turns to enter here. Then why did someone choose to come back and die halfway? Even a Holy Spirit expert recognized by the will of heaven and earth had died here. Then what about them? A feeling of uneasiness rose in their hearts. The old beggar boldly stepped forward and flipped over the corpse. Immediately after, a cry of surprise was heard. "There are words here." Lang Shiqi looked over, and there were indeed a few lines of words under the skeleton. The handwriting was very messy, and the depth was different. It looked a bit like it was written before death. "Lies. A big lie. It's all a scam. Run, don't come over." It was just a few short lines, but they were filled with hatred and despair. Just what had he gone through to make a Saint Spirit expert feel such despair? Up until now, everyone felt that things had already gone beyond their expectations. Was the passage of thoughts really just a lie, a scam? The old beggar lifted one of the skeleton's arms and said, This person's left hand has 6 finger bones. Is there a Holy Spirit expert with this feature in the falling star continent?" Huang Wei Spirit Sovereign's expression changed, and he immediately ran to the old beggar's side, carefully looking at the finger bones of the skeleton. The more he looked, the bigger his eyes became. Then, he said with complicated emotions, He is very likely to be the Saint Venerable from tens of thousands of years ago, my ancestor, and the last Saint Spirit expert of the Royal Prestige Spirit region. According to the records left behind by our ancestors, this ancestor left the falling star continent through the passage in the holy city. He said that he was going to seek greater power. Who would have thought that he would end up like this? Everyone's expression changed. Huang Wei spiritual elder recognized the owner of this skeleton, which proved that this person was indeed from the falling star continent. Then what did he mean by those words he left behind? What kind of terrifying existence was at the end of this tunnel? Moreover, if it was only dangerous, he couldn't possibly call it a scam. Now, what should we do? Spirit Supremacy Luo Ying asked. She was already starting to regret her decision. As a Tongxian realm cultivator, she used to be a powerful figure on the falling star continent. But now, she was being suppressed by 2 Tongxian realm cultivators and the corpse of a holy spirit expert. She really had a feeling that her future was uncertain. Just as everyone was bewildered, the Pure Yang Sacred Master said in a deep voice, "The entrance has already been closed. We have nowhere to go." As for continuing forward, Lang Shiqi continued, "The Pure Yang Sacred Master is right. Everyone here is also a top-notch expert of the falling star continent. Right now, the only way is to continue forward. Otherwise, who can guarantee how long we can survive in this place filled with spatial cracks? Also, did you really not notice that the spiritual energy here is unusually scarce? Not only spiritual energy, but the origin energy of heaven and earth is also pitifully scarce. As for the power of laws, it is far more difficult to trigger here than in the falling star continent." Everyone else had naturally noticed this, but no one cared. They were existences who had grasped the laws of heaven and earth. Mere spiritual energy was nothing to them. However, when they heard Lang Shiqi's words and tried to trigger the laws of heaven and earth, they were shocked to find that the laws of heaven and earth were indeed much thinner here. This meant that their battle strength would be greatly reduced here. This space was like heaven and earth compared to the secret realm they were in before. Could this be what the previous Huang Wei spiritual elder wanted to express? Let's go. The Pure Yang Sacred Master took a step forward. This was like a signal. His back looked somewhat imposing, and the others followed his footsteps one after another. In a place like this where unknown dangers existed, following a heaven completion realm expert was naturally the best choice. Huang Wei spiritual elder kept the corpse and followed. No one coveted the corpse. After all, it was his ancestor. Actually, there was a voice in the Pure Yang Sacred Master's heart that was guiding him to the depths. It was as if there was something extremely important to him inside. The 8 of them chose to continue forward. They walked even more cautiously. However, not long after, their footsteps stopped again. This was because they discovered another corpse in front of them. It was still a golden skeleton, and it still had the aura of a holy spirit. This was the corpse of another Holy Spirit expert. This Holy Spirit expert did not have any special characteristics. No one recognized who he was, and only left a single word: regret. Just by looking at this word, everyone could feel his remorse. Everyone's hearts became heavier. This was already the second one. Would they encounter even more if they continued onwards? There weren't many Holy Spirit experts in the falling star continent. In the past hundreds of thousands of years, there were probably only a few hundred. After all, the closer one was to the present, the fewer Holy Spirit experts there would be. 1 corpse, 2 corpses, 3. As everyone went deeper into the wasteland, they discovered more and more corpses. Along the way, the Pure Yang Sacred Master also collected a corpse. The others did not pay much attention to it. Perhaps it was an ancestor of the Pure Yang Temple. The others did not rashly collect the corpse. After all, they were all Holy Spirit experts in the past. Who knew if they would leave behind any methods? This was not something they could bear. Not far away, another 2 corpses entered their sights. The difference was that these 2 corpses were not lying down, but sitting cross-legged on the ground. Everyone looked carefully. One of them was wearing a purple robe and a jade crown. The other was wearing a pitch-black battle armor. There were countless strange beast runes on the battle armor, covering his entire body. The 8 of them were puzzled. At the same time, they were extremely vigilant. Shortly after, an inexplicable caw-caw sound was heard. The 2 corpses actually moved. It was also at this time that the plaza of the Lingbei County's holy city was filled with hundreds of Sky Origin experts. They had finally arrived. They had also discovered the secret of the 4 stone pillars. Many of the people present were from the 4 sacred regions. It did not take long for them to find a way to enter the holy city. Hundreds of sky origin experts poured into the secret realm. Once they entered the secret realm, they naturally began to wantonly plunder all kinds of treasures. Yushu from the Extreme Blade Hall chuckled. What a good place to kill and rob. I wonder how many sky origin experts will fall here. Brother Lung is really ruthless. Chapter 933. There were 5 types of people in the Sky Origin realm who entered the Holy City. The Thunderblaze Dynasty, the Starfall Dynasty, the Northern Wei Dynasty, the various sects, and the Rogue Cultivators. The experts of the Thunderblaze Dynasty's Hall of Worship had already entered and plundered more than half of the secret realm. Among the remaining people, there were Lung Shiqi's targets. They were the experts of the Starfall Dynasty and the Northern Wei Dynasty's Hall of Worship. As the top fighting force of each dynasty, they were also the pillars of the dynasty. If these experts died in the Holy City, the overall strength of the 2 dynasties would drop by 70 to 80%. Although not all of the Sky Origin stage cultivators were here, and some of the important places needed to be guarded, those who were scattered all over the place wouldn't be able to do much. Not far from Yushu, there were 2 experts from the Northern Wei Empire. Coincidentally, they were in the vicinity and soon met each other. Nether Chi surrounded Yushu, and 4 figures walked out. They were Mingyu Ghost Emperor, Delta Origi, Wu Jin Ghost Emperor, Wu Xiang, King Pingdeng, Xiong Ming, King Yen Luo, Eunuch Gao, and King Bian Cheng, Hateful Blade. Hateful Blade did not enter the passage with Lung Shiqi. First of all, he had just entered the Tongxian realm. His strength could be said to be at the top of the continent, but compared to the Tongxian realm, he was still too far away. Not only did Hateful Blade have to guard the Blood Robe Pavilion, but he also had to kill the experts of the other dynasties. A few people walked out of the Nether Chi with murderous intent, and instantly surrounded the 2 people. The 2 immediately felt the gloomy chi around them, and several dense killing intent enveloped their bodies. Hateful Blade's cold gaze, which pierced through their souls, made them lose the desire to fight. Everyone, is there a misunderstanding? There are no treasures here. No, I still have some good things on me. I'll give them all to you. The 2 were so scared that they almost knelt down and begged for mercy. The dignity of the Sky Origin realm was thrown out of the window. The battle ended very quickly, leaving behind only 2 broken bones. The whole process only took a short while. Hateful Blade did not make a move, treating it as a training for the younger generation. Lang Shiqi had already informed them through the Mansion of the Dead that there were only Wuma Yuanjie and the other 3 mystic comprehending cultivators in the arcane realm. Among them, Old Master Qiao was still on their side. Most likely, spiritual venerable Wu Ji would not get involved in Dynasty's battle. Therefore, as long as they avoided Wuma Yuanjie and Chen Xian, they could do whatever they wanted. Thus, a cold and sharp knife appeared in the mystic realm. They did not explore the ruins, nor did they fight for treasures. Instead, they killed everyone they saw. It did not take long for news of their whereabouts to spread, causing many people to feel uneasy. However, after careful investigation, they discovered that the people who died were all from the Northern Wei Dynasty and the Starfall Dynasty. Was this a coincidence, or was it intentional? No matter what the situation was, the experts of the 2 empires all felt that they were in danger. They stopped looking for treasures and started to group up to save themselves. Even so, there were still people dying tragically. Yushu and the others had actually split up. Once they discovered their target, they would use the underworld to instantly gather. Hence, their whereabouts could be said to be elusive, making it impossible to guard against them. Wuma Yuanjie and Chen Xian naturally knew that someone was assassinating their experts. They were immediately furious. It was obvious that it was the Thunderfire Dynasty's doing. The 2 of them even wanted to personally slaughter the experts of the Thunderfire Dynasty. However, Old Master Qiao had not joined the sect. With him around, it was impossible for them to do so. Therefore, Wuma Yuanjie and Chen Xian worked together for the first time. They directly went to Old Master Qiao and suspected that he had done something secretly. At first, Old Master Qiao was very confused when he learned about this. He did not give such an order. After asking around, he found that the heavenly origin realm experts of the Thunderfire dynasty did not receive any orders from His Majesty. This meant that the assassins were not from the Hall of Worship. That was strange. Those who died were all experts from the other two empires. At present, roughly half of the experts of the two empires had died. To them, this was definitely a huge loss. The Starfall dynasty had a deep foundation and could barely bear it. However, the Northern Wei dynasty only had less than 10 heavenly origin realm experts left. It was a pity to see them like this. The heavy losses of the two empires were naturally great news for the Thunderfire dynasty. After they left the Holy City, the Thunderfire dynasty's authority on the continent would rise. Wuma Yuanjie questioned, "Old Master Qiao, did you allow your subordinates to slaughter the experts of our Hall of Worship?" Chen Xian did not say anything. However, sword light flashed in his eyes. It was as if he would attack at any moment. For the Northern Wei dynasty, he was willing to take only 1 star. For the Northern Wei dynasty, he was willing to give up the opportunity to join the sect. However, it did not take long for more than half of the experts they worshipped to die. This completely infuriated Chen Xian. Old Master Qiao was overjoyed. However, he put on a solemn expression and said, "Why do you say that, Brother Wuma? You should know that the people of the Thunderfire dynasty have been tightly gathered since the beginning. No one acted alone. This is obvious to all. Moreover, the people who entered the Holy City this time are all famous. There are countless people who know them. If anyone acts alone, they will definitely be recognized. Even if their appearance can be hidden, their cultivation base and spiritual techniques cannot be hidden. As far as I know, the people who slaughtered your subordinates all cultivated extreme Yin techniques. They are definitely not from the Thunderfire dynasty. I reckon that the reason they did this is to sow discord and make the 3 of us fight in the Holy City. The most important thing now is not to question the Thunderfire dynasty, but to dig out those people as soon as possible and skin them alive." There were no loopholes in Old Master Qiao's words. First, he removed himself from suspicion. Then, he pointed the finger at someone else. In the end, his face was filled with righteous indignation. "It really isn't you?" Wuma Yuanjie stared into Old Master Qiao's eyes. It was as if he wanted to see through him. However, he could not see anything strange. Chen Xian also started to waver. Just as the few of them were in a deadlock, a shocking saber light slashed at them from the horizon. The saber light was like a black waterfall. The qi of the netherworld corroded the heaven and earth. This was an extreme Yin saber light. It was as if it could destroy the world. Wuma Yuanjie, Chen Xian, and Old Master Qiao all frowned. Where did this metaphysical realm cultivator come from? Chen Xian, who was filled with anger, stabbed his sword. The dazzling sword light pierced the sky. The pure sword intent was extremely beautiful. In everyone's eyes, the heaven and earth seemed to have lost their color. This stunning sword cut through the netherworld saber light. The few of them finally saw the attacker. It was a man covered in a gorgeous black robe. The qi of the netherworld surged around him, making him look like a demon. "Who are you? Did you kill my subordinates?" Chen Xian asked coldly. The man raised the short saber in his hand and said, "Underworld, King Bian Cheng." Chapter 934. Mansion of the Dead? What kind of force was that? It was definitely an extraordinary force to have a Tongxian realm expert, but they had never heard of it. "Did you kill my men?" Wuma Yuanjie asked coldly. "Yes," Hateful Blade admitted right away. Wuma Yuanjie's face darkened. "Die!" Black water appeared in front of him, and the boundless black water vital qi turned into a huge whirlpool, swallowing everything like a black hole. At the same time, the ground glowed with green light. Huge trees rose from the ground and turned into countless tentacles that grabbed at Hateful Blade. Wuma Yuanjie had cultivated both the water and wood laws of heaven and earth. Chen Xian unsheathed his sword and was about to attack, but Hateful Blade said to Old Man Qiao, "Are you going to just stand there and watch? Someone asked me to hunt down the experts of the 2 dynasties, so your Thunderflame dynasty should do the same." Old Man Qiao hesitated for a moment, then stood in front of Chen Xian. "Are you really going to stop me? We're just doing our own thing." The surrounding Sky Origin realm experts stepped back. The battle between the 4 Tongxian realm experts could break out at any time, and they didn't want to get involved. Just as the four of them were confronting each other, a figure appeared in the Nether Temple outside the sacred city. The figure looked exactly like Lang Shiqi. His real body couldn't appear here at this time. It was just a doppelganger. He opened the door, looked at the tombs and murmured, "It's time for you to see the light of day again." In the Zhuge family, Zhuge Yun and Zhuge Pu were kneeling on the ground. Similarly, Lang Shiqi's doppelganger struck out countless spells to connect the stars. Every star had an expert of the Zhuge family in deep slumber. It's finally time for the stars to shine again. In the far north wastelands, countless demon beasts gathered together. At the front, 3 people looked out of the wastelands, their eyes full of killing intent and desire. Another doppelganger of Lang Shiqi suddenly appeared near them. The Saint City has appeared. Now, more than 90% of the Heaven Origin Realm cultivators on the continent have entered the Saint City. The Thunderflame dynasty has also transferred all their forces to the Starfall dynasty. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Demon Venerable Windsplitting laughed wildly. "Children, let's fight our way out." All of a sudden, thousands of demonic beasts rushed towards the Northern Wei dynasty like a tidal wave. The human race had set up 2 barriers to guard against the demon race in the northern wastelands. The first barrier was the Imperial Beast Lodge and the Blood Beast sect. The second was the Northern Wei Empire. Due to the appearance of the sacred city, most of the experts in the world had gone to Lingbei County. Only the Northern Wei dynasty had the fewest people because they were afraid that the demons would take advantage of this time to invade. The Northern Wei Empire had even mobilized 100,000 soldiers to guard the northern border. Coupled with the presence of 2 top sects, it would be difficult to break through these 2 barriers unless the demons came out in full force. However, on this day, the demonic beasts really came out in full force. The first to bear the brunt were the Imperial Beast Lodge and the Blood Beast sect. If the demonic beasts hated ordinary spirit cultivators, then they hated the people of these 2 sects 1,000 times, 10,000 times. For thousands of years, these 2 sects had been capturing and killing countless demonic beasts. They wished that they could tear all the disciples of these 2 sects into pieces. The 3 demon venerables acted separately. Demon Venerable Windsplitting led several demon kings and tens of thousands of demonic beasts to attack the Blood Beast sect. In recent years, the Blood Beast sect had been declining day by day. Last time, in the Northern Wei Empire's myriad spirit gathering, they had lost a Sky Origin Realm expert, including an expert like Xiaofan Yu. After that, the Blood Beast sect had been suppressed by the Imperial Beast Lodge. Sect Master Situ Huanshu's hair had turned white in the past 10 years. It was obvious that his life was not easy. This time, when the sacred city opened, the 2 sects did not send many people. Their Blood Beast sect only sent a Sky Origin Realm expert. Not only did they have to guard against the invasion of the demonic beasts, but they also had to guard against the Imperial Beast Lodge. On this day, Situ Huanshu was dealing with the sect's affairs. Suddenly, an earth-shattering beast roar resounded through the sky. Even the ground trembled a few times. Immediately after, countless demonic beasts roared continuously. It was so loud that even the deaf could hear them. Situ Huanshu was shocked. In a flash, he arrived outside the sect. What he saw was a dense group of demonic beasts charging at him with scarlet eyes. Above the group of demonic beasts, there were more than 10 demonic beasts in human form. They were all level 7 demonic beasts. The most terrifying one was the burly man in the lead. His demonic chi was almost solid. Just one look from him was enough to make Situ Huanshu's breathing stop. That was a level 8 demon venerable. On the other side, Nine Leaf personally came to the Imperial Beast Lodge. When she was transcending her tribulation in the demonic Miasma Mountain Range, the Blood Beast sect Xiaofan Yu and the 1,000-legged Beast King Nanmen Yun of the Imperial Beast Lodge went to capture her. As a result, her newly cultivated level 7 demonic body was destroyed. When Lang Shiqi came to the Northern Wei Empire to participate in the Myriad Spirit Gathering, he secretly helped Nine Leaf get rid of the Blood Beast sect Xiaofan Yu. Now, the only enemy left in Nine Leaf's heart was the Imperial Beast Lodge. And this time, only Nine Leaf was attacking the Imperial Beast Lodge. One person was more than enough to deal with them. A level 8 demon venerable descended. That majestic demonic chi swept through heaven and earth. The wind and clouds changed. Within 1,000 miles, it was filled with a terrifying demonic wind. Nine-Leaf didn't say anything and directly revealed her demon-venerable true form. The several hundred feet soul-leaving scorpion was as terrifying as a black cloud. She opened her bloody mouth and released a formless sound wave. In an instant, all the disciples in the Imperial Beast Lodge couldn't help but cover their ears. Before they knew what was happening, they were already bleeding from their 7 orifices and died. Wisps of souls floated out and were all sucked into her mouth. In just a few blinks of an eye, there were only a few dozen people left in the huge Imperial Beast Lodge. The lowest cultivation of these people was at the unity of heaven and man realm. Only this realm could barely hold on. As for the remaining people, they were all seriously injured. Nine-Leaf saw a familiar figure in the crowd and smiled eerily. Nan Men Yun, do you still remember me? You're that soul-leaving scorpion. Nan Men Yun recognized Nine-Leaf, and his eyes almost popped out. Not only did that great demon who had self-detonated back then not die, but it had also become a level 8 demon venerable and came to seek revenge. Other than Nan Men Yun, there were 2 other heavenly origin realm cultivators in the Imperial Beast Lodge. They said in shock and anger, "You actually provoked such a terrifying enemy for the sect. The sect has been destroyed. How are we going to explain to our ancestors?" Enough! So what if it's a demon venerable? It's not like there aren't any demon venerables in the extreme northern wastelands. Soul-leaving scorpion, don't you think that Silver-Winged Demon Venerable and Wind-Breaking Demon Venerable haven't attacked the Imperial Beast Lodge and Blood Beast sect for so many years? Is it because they're not strong enough? It can be said that as long as any one of them comes, they can easily destroy the Imperial Beast Lodge like you. But what about after that? Only destruction awaits your demon race. Chapter 935. Clap, clap, clap. Nine-Leaf turned back into his human form and clapped his hands. Well said. But why don't you think about why I came back and slaughtered your Imperial Beast abode? Is it really just for revenge? Maybe the Blood Beast sect will end up like you. Not only you, but also the Northern Wei Empire. What? A possibility appeared in their minds, and they all turned pale with fright. The demon race finally couldn't hold back and killed their way out of the northern wastelands. They also remembered that most of the experts in the Northern Wei Empire had left due to the opening of the Holy City. Maybe Chen Xian had left as well. Then, who would stop the demon race's 3 rank 8 demon venerables and countless demon beasts? The 3 of them could already see the Northern Wei Empire turning into a river of blood. However, this was their last thought, because in the next moment, their heads were gone. The demon race's last and largest group was led by the Silver-Winged Demon Venerable. They directly broke through the Northern Wei Empire's 100,000 soldiers and killed their way into the Northern Wei Empire. These demon beasts didn't kill too many ordinary people. Instead, they rushed towards the Northern Wei Empire's imperial capital like a tide. When Emperor Wei Xuandi heard the news, countless demon beasts were only 1,000 miles away from the imperial capital. According to the speed of the demon race, they would reach the imperial capital in 1 or 2 days. Emperor Wei Xuandi was scared out of his wits. Currently, there were only a dozen Sky Origin Realm experts in the Imperial Hall of Worship. There were also a few who were guarding the other borders. It was too late to call them back. What made him feel the most helpless was that Chen Xian was not here. Without Chen Xian, the mystic comprehending realm expert, the Northern Wei Empire had no ability to resist the rank 8 demon venerables. The moment the war started, they were destined to lose. He sat on the dragon throne dispiritedly. Pass down the decree. Abandon the imperial capital and gather all forces to escape to the Starfall dynasty. It was impossible to defend the imperial capital and the Northern Wei Empire. The only thing he could do was to preserve the power of the imperial capital. Even if the Northern Wei Empire was gone, they would still have a place to stand. The Starfall dynasty's emperor, Ing Kongji, rubbed his forehead. The emperor had a lot of troubles recently. Some high-ranking officials of the Starfall dynasty's 48 counties were assassinated at the same time. One had to know that although those people's cultivation was not high, they had many experts protecting them. How could they die just like that? It wouldn't have been a big deal if it was just 1 or 2 states, but the problem was that the same thing had happened in all 48 states. Ing Kongji instantly knew that there must be a conspiracy behind this, and there were very few people or forces in the world who could do such a thing. The Blood Cloak Pavilion, one of the 7 absolutes in the Starfall continent, had to be the organization with the strongest assassination ability. However, the Blood Cloak Pavilion was located far away in the Thunderblaze dynasty. They could not reach the Starfall dynasty at all. Thinking of this, Ing Kongji's expression froze. No, the Thunderfire dynasty's king of the west, Lang Shiqi, is the pavilion master of the Blood Clothing Pavilion. The Blood Clothing Pavilion has most likely been recruited by the Thunderfire dynasty. Perhaps he is the one who sent a large number of assassins to infiltrate the various provinces and counties. But it is impossible for the Blood Cloak Pavilion to infiltrate the 48 provinces and counties without being detected by the intelligence network of our dynasty in a short period of time. Unless this has been planned for a long time. This was not the biggest headache for him. What was even more troublesome was that as long as there was someone to fill the vacancy, they would still be assassinated again. In other words, whoever sat in this position would die. If that was the case, who would dare to take the position? However, once these positions were vacant, many things would become chaotic. For a short period of time, the situation could still be barely maintained. But if this continued, the various provinces and counties would be thrown into chaos. Not only were the high officials of the various provinces and counties killed, even the military was assassinated. The military was not a place that anyone could casually approach. But, even under the heavy guard, there were still people killed. What was detestable was that the assassins were not the generals with military power, but the mid-level generals. As the generals leading the army, it was impossible for them to do everything by themselves. They were only the ones who gave orders. The ones who were truly in charge were the mid-level generals. Once they died, even if there was someone to replace them, it would still cause a lot of chaos. It would even shake the morale of the army and make them uneasy. This series of events was finally delivered to Ing Kongji. He angrily slammed the table. Most of the experts of the consecration hall have gone to the holy city. Otherwise, if a few of them were to be sent out, these rascals would not be so rampant. Although there were still more than 20 Sky Origin stage experts in the consecration hall, half of them were guarding the Dragon Vein. They could not afford to lose them. As for the rest, they were either in seclusion or outside. Only 2 or 3 of them could still be used. Unfortunately, it was just a drop in the bucket. Speaking of the holy city, Ing Kongji's eyes flashed. He reread a large number of memorials and found that the assassinations were all started after the holy city appeared. That was to say, someone might have known that the holy city would appear and that all the experts in the world would go to Lingbei County. Thus, they set up a trap in advance and waited for the holy city to appear before taking action. For some reason, Ing Kongji suddenly had an ominous feeling in his heart. At this moment, in the Thunderfire dynasty's imperial palace, Emperor Lei Haoyan was wearing battle armor and holding the golden dragon spear in his hand. He was standing at the entrance of the main hall, full of fighting spirit. The civil and military officials were standing on both sides, as if they were waiting for something. Suddenly, a stream of light shot over from the horizon. Lei Haoyan stretched out his hand and grabbed it. Immediately, a giant hand of thunder condensed and caught the stream of light. When the stream of light dissipated, it was actually a jade slip. Lei Haoyan shouted, "The time has come. Commander, are you ready for the expedition to the west?" Emo Xiongwa stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, the military supplies have already been secretly sent to the West Province. We can guarantee that nothing will go wrong." "Very good. It's been 10 years. We've been preparing for 10 years just for this day. 10 years. In these 10 years, the Lang Shiqi had not only been cultivating, but also preparing to attack the Starfall dynasty. The Thunderfire dynasty had 400,000 mercenaries. These 400,000 soldiers were not at the level of the Great Moon Kingdom. Each of them was definitely an elite soldier and was equipped with the best weapons of the Thunderfire dynasty. However, these soldiers were usually scattered around the border. If they wanted to attack the Starfall dynasty, they naturally had to mobilize all of them. However, mobilizing hundreds of thousands of soldiers would cause too much of a commotion. The spies of the Starfall dynasty could easily detect it. Therefore, the Lang Shiqi used 10 years to secretly send the 400,000 soldiers and countless supplies into the West Province. On the surface, the Thunderfire dynasty's 4 main armies were still there. In fact, these were all for show. They were all new soldiers. The true elites had already been sent to the West Province. At the same time, the West Province had also taken out 150,000 elite soldiers after 10 years of cultivation. The 550,000 soldiers were ready to attack. As long as the order was given, they could attack the Starfall dynasty at any time. Lei Haoyan pointed his spear and shouted, "Let's fight!" Chapter 936. Lang Shiqi, who was deep in the mysterious passage, received news from Nine Leave and his past incarnation. He knew that his plan, which had been laid out for 10 years, had been fully launched. The demon race's invasion of the Northern Wei dynasty was a sure thing. There would be no accidents. The Thunderfire dynasty and the West Continent's joint attack on the Starfall dynasty had some hidden dangers. Perhaps the border could be easily broken through, but the Starfall dynasty was simply too big. It was impossible to slowly attack the city. If that happened, the war would drag on. The Thunderfire dynasty's foundation was far inferior to the Starfall dynasty's. It would only become more and more disadvantageous if it dragged on. Therefore, in order to ensure that they could take down the Starfall dynasty in a short period of time, Lang Shiqi directly used the trump cards of the Nether Temple and the Zhuge family. Those experts were divided into several groups to attack the various armies of the Starfall dynasty. It was just that they were not all in place yet. When the Starfall dynasty wanted to mobilize their forces to fight against the Thunderfire dynasty, they would find that there were no more soldiers available. Lang Shiqi didn't have too much energy to worry about this. He had already made all the arrangements he needed to make. Even if something unexpected happened, he still had 3 reaching heaven states on his side. As long as they were safe, nothing could go wrong. Right now, he was most concerned about the 2 saint spirit corpses in front of him. With a few light cracking sounds, the 2 corpses slowly opened their eyes. In an instant, Dao rhymes circulated, and demonic qi filled the sky. The power was so great that the nearby spatial cracks were all repelled. Lang Shiqi and the others retreated one after another with astonishment on their faces. This scene made their hair stand on end. 2 existences that should have been dead for tens of thousands of years could still have such power. Could it be that these 2 saint spirit experts were not dead? However, Lang Shiqi immediately discovered that the hands and feet of these 2 people were golden bones. They were obviously dead. Immediately after, a layer of faint saint light lingered on the bones. It was as if it was real, and it looked like skin. Everyone looked at the 2 people warily. One of them wearing demonic armor spoke. His voice was like 2 stones rubbing against each other. It was abnormally ear-piercing. How many years has it been? We finally see a spirit cultivator again. Another person wearing a Taoist robe said, "That scam has not been seen through yet." As expected, it attracted another group of people. There are only a few reaching heaven states, but there are even metaphysical states. How could the falling star continent be reduced to such a state? I thought I could recover more of my strength. What a pity. The 2 of them seemed to be talking to themselves, but also seemed to be communicating with each other. They did not put Lang Shiqi and the others in their eyes at all. They were like fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Everyone was puzzled. These 2 people were neither human nor ghost, but they still had traces of saint aura on them. They did not know what they were. At this moment, the pure Yang sacred master said in disdain, "You are merely 2 remnant souls. How dare you be so arrogant?" The gazes of the 2 people instantly locked onto the pure Yang sacred master. 2 blood-red lights flashed in their empty eyes. Soon after, boundless killing intent covered the sky. An ant-like junior of the Heaven Ascension stage actually dares to bark in front of this saint. It seems that the Starfall continent really has no successor. The demon supremacy was surrounded by raging demonic flames. Although he did not have a saber in his hand, he used his palm as a saber. Wherever the saber landed, it would be a boundless demonic domain. The other person struck out with his palm. Boundless Taoist connotation filled the air and instantly formed a strange array that strangled all powers. The strength of the 2 people's attacks far exceeded that of a reaching heaven state. A golden Arhat Dharma idol appeared behind Tu Deng. When he punched out, heaven and earth seemed to tremble and the void cracked. It could be said that this was the limit of strength. The power of Buddhism should be extremely effective against demonic techniques. However, such a powerful punch only caused the demonic domain to tremble slightly. the pure yang sacred master transformed into a huge sun and shone brightly. It did not have the power to shake the heavens, but the light was like the sun dispelling the shadows, causing the demonic domain to gradually dissipate. These two people's techniques had the ability to restrain demonic aura. The two of them worked together and barely blocked the demonic domain. But what about the other side? Luo Ying's spirit supremacy and Huang Wei's spirit supremacy did not even have the qualifications to interfere. The others were also in the metaphysical state. Were they going to die here? At this moment, the old beggar spat a mouthful of saliva to the side and muttered, "I haven't fought for a long time. I wonder if I've become rusty." As he spoke, a majestic power of earth erupted. Instantly, the ground churned as if something was about to break out of the ground. Indeed, two gigantic hands that reached the heavens shattered the ground and emerged from the ground. Those hands were emitting an extremely dense aura of the laws of earth. Every pattern on the palms could be seen clearly, especially the threads that were constantly sparkling. Those were the threads of laws. The two gigantic hands suddenly clapped together, as if they wanted to smash the two corpses into pieces. However, they were firmly suppressed by the profound Taoist connotation and could not advance even an inch. At the same time, the blue-robed man snorted. Suddenly, waves appeared in the blue sea between heaven and earth. In the blink of an eye, this wasteland had turned into a vast ocean. Huge waves surged and churned, drowning the world. The disfigured youth shook his head. However, the demonic aura around him surged. Behind him, the phantom of a strange beast slowly appeared. The strange beast opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the river of stars, as if it could swallow everything in this world. Of the three people who suddenly attacked, the old beggar blocked the Taoist connotation array. The blue-robed man's blue sea tore a hole in it. Finally, the ancient strange beast's devouring power finally shattered the Taoist connotation array. The three people formed a silent tacit understanding when they attacked. However, Tu Deng and the pure young sacred master could only barely block the demonic domain. At this moment, tens of thousands of sword rays shot up. Instantly, netherworld chi filled the sky. Every sword ray contained the strange power of the laws of reincarnation, and condensed into a sword net that covered the sky. The sword net fell and shattered the boundless demonic domain. Lang Shiqi's eyes shone as he scanned the old beggar and the other two. Needless to say, these three were definitely genuine heavenly completion realm cultivators. Furthermore, they were heavenly completion realm cultivators who had cultivated for countless years. Their strength was probably even deeper than Meng Tianzong's. No wonder Meng Tianzong had specifically warned him before he came that there were definitely other heavenly completion realm cultivators hidden in this world and that he had to be extremely careful. 3 heavenly completion realm cultivators had suddenly appeared. In addition to the pure yang sacred master and Tu Deng, there were 5 of them. He could only say that they had hidden themselves deeply. What made Lang Shiqi feel strange was that this was the first time he had seen a Dao technique in this world. It turned out that even in a different world, there might be a similar power system. It was just that this Dao technique had not been passed down. Lang Shiqi was not the only one who was shocked. The old beggar and the others also looked at each other. Clearly, they did not expect that there would be so many heavenly completion realm cultivators besides them. If not for the 2 living beings' corpses, who knew how long they would have hidden? The disfigured youth looked at Lang Shiqi with a strange gaze. No one knew what he was thinking. The ones who were the most shocked were naturally Huang Wei Spirit Sovereign and Luo Ying Spirit Sovereign. The battle here was not something they were qualified to participate in, so they immediately retreated. However, as they retreated, their minds were completely blank. What kind of situation was this? Not only were there heavenly completion realm cultivators who had disappeared from the falling star continent for a long time, there were a total of 6 of them. I'm afraid I'm not dreaming. Huang Wei's Spirit Sovereign even turned his head and asked, Luo Ying, don't tell me you're also a heavenly completion realm cultivator? Of course not. Fairy Luo Ying spat in exasperation. Originally, when the 2 heavenly completion realm cultivators, Pure Yang Sacred Master and Tu Deng, appeared, they felt that the heavenly completion realm cultivators had become mere foils and clowns. However, only now did they realize that there were only 2 clowns. Chapter 937. The 6 reaching heaven realm cultivators worked together to break through the attacks of the 2 living corpses, but they didn't feel proud. After all, the other party had only casually attacked, and they had only barely blocked it with their full strength. You have some ability. With the strength of a reaching heaven realm cultivator, you still have such battle strength in this space. Not bad. The words of the 2 seemed to be praising, but the demon sovereign condensed a malevolent black spear in his hand. In an instant, demonic flames rose, and a demonic sun appeared in the sky, as if the entire space had turned into a demonic domain. Then, the demonic spear actually tore the demonic sun apart, and a terrifying demonic power that was enough to destroy the world rushed towards the crowd. The person in the Taoist robe pointed a finger, and suddenly, a boundless Taoist connotation swept out. A finger formed 3 worlds, and each world contained a different law of power. He had actually condensed 3 types of law power, and each of them had reached the pinnacle. Yuan Demon's sky-piercing spear. He's the demon sovereign from hundreds of thousands of years ago, the 10-directional holy demon. Luo Ying's spirit sovereign shouted from behind, recognizing the identity of this person. Huang Wei's spirit sovereign also said, the other is the heaven and earth Tao ancestor, a holy spirit expert from the same era as the 10-directional holy demon. After the 2 of them finished speaking, they looked at each other inexplicably. It seemed like they were here to explain. It could also be said that this was the only use they had left. Lang Shiqi and the others also finally knew who their opponents were. These 2 were experts from hundreds of thousands of years ago. The demonic spear pierced through the sky, and Tu Deng chanted Buddha's name. In an instant, his whole body shone with golden light, as if he was gilding himself, and his aura suddenly rose by a lot. Indestructible Vajra. Arhat golden body. It was a powerful body refining technique that combined offense and defense. With a punch, several Arhat Dharma images appeared behind him, and they also punched out. The power of the punch directly shattered the void. The pure Yang sacred master was unwilling to fall behind. 9 blazing suns rose into the air. This time, each blazing sun emitted a completely different aura. Some blazed like fire, some were bone-chilling cold, and some were soft and boneless. Following that, the 9 blazing suns shot out like 9 stars in a row, heading straight for the demonic spear. The terror of the devil spear was far beyond everyone's imagination. It had easily broken through Tu Deng's Arhat Dharma idol, and even flung him hundreds of miles away. If it wasn't for the fact that the Arhat golden body was strong enough, he would have been swallowed by the spatial crack. As for the pure Yang sacred master's 9 blazing suns, they were all pierced through by the demonic spear. Lang Shiqi was already preparing when the 2 of them made their move. He also knew that if he didn't show his true strength, it would be unforgivable. Black and white light gathered and circulated around him. It was the power of Yin and Yang that was closest to the origin of the world. When the demonic spear pierced through the 9 blazing suns, the black and white light soared into the sky. The power of Yin and Yang spread out, and an incomparably harmonious aura appeared. The power of Yin and Yang actually fused together in mid-air, finally forming an incomparably huge Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram. When the Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram appeared, the power of the origin suppressed the world. At the same time, it also contained the supreme power of the Tao. The power of the demonic spear was already greatly reduced. Under the attack of the power of Yin and Yang, it finally dissipated into nothingness. The Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram even greatly affected Tao ancestor heaven and earth's 3 realms, causing the power of the 3 realms to distort. The old beggar and the other 2 people made their moves one after another, destroying the power of the 3 realms. Everyone present, including the 2 experts from hundreds of thousands of years ago, including the numerous heavenly completion realm experts, including Huang Wei spiritual venerable and Luo Ying spiritual venerable, stared straight at Lang Shiqi. He had actually blocked the attacks of 2 Holy Spirit realm experts by himself. Although the other heavenly completion realm experts couldn't be ignored, Lang Shiqi was the one who had played the decisive role. There was also the Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram that was still displayed in the sky. The power of the origin it emitted was daunting. Several people were thinking in their hearts, is Lang Shiqi really in the heavenly completion realm? This kind of power that could directly reach the origin of the world, perhaps it was already somewhat beyond the scope of the heavenly completion realm. The holy devil of 10 directions and Tao ancestor heaven and earth's hollow eyes revealed a dignified look. Tao ancestor heaven and earth said, the power of Yin and Yang has evolved to the extreme, and there is still Tao connotation. Perhaps I was wrong from the beginning. The holy devil of 10 directions said to Lang Shiqi, if you were born tens of thousands of years earlier, you would have become a holy spirit. However, even if your strength is very strong, and the two of us can't do anything to you, you can't do anything to us either. The current situation seemed to be relatively balanced. Lang Shiqi's side had 6 heavenly completion realm experts, but they were barely on par with the 2 experts. No one could do anything to the other, and the situation was in a deadlock. Unless there was a 7th person, the balance could be broken. Lang Shiqi raised the corner of his mouth. Who said there was no 7th heavenly completion realm expert? In an instant, boundless 9-colored spiritual light illuminated the world. It was magnificent and dreamy, and at the same time, countless figures evolved. God, devil, monster, ghost, saint. The legendary existences that existed in the falling star continent all appeared, and their power shook the 4 seas. A beautiful woman quietly appeared. Meng Tianzong. Meng Tianzong was good at illusions, but it didn't mean that she only knew illusions. What she practiced was the law of illusion, and she had the ability to turn illusions into reality. Everyone was shocked again. No one had expected that there really was a 7th heavenly completion realm expert. But how did she get in? How did she hide? How did no one notice her? Lang Shiqi took 2 steps forward and said, Gentlemen, can we sit down and have a good talk? The holy devil of 10 directions and Tao ancestor heaven and earth looked at each other. Although they used to be holy spirits, it was somewhat impossible for them to deal with 7 heavenly completion realm experts at the same time in their current state. In particular, Lang Shiqi had mastered the power of the origin of yin and yang. If they fought with all their strength, no one could say who would win. Tao ancestor heaven and earth sighed slightly. Well, you should be the strongest people on the continent now. You're qualified to know about the shocking scam. Perhaps we can join forces. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but feel relieved. In this unknown place, they would not fight if they could. Moreover, their opponents were the strongest people from hundreds of thousands of years ago. After the previous fight, they were qualified to talk. The holy devil of 10 directions asked first, how did you know that there was a passage to leave the continent in the holy city? Everyone looked at Lang Shiqi silently. Judging from the power that these people had shown before, Lang Shiqi was undoubtedly the strongest. He was qualified to represent everyone. Lang Shiqi didn't hold back. He said, there was this rumor in ancient times. Not only me, but all the major forces and experts know about it. Rumor? Yes, it's a rumor. Tao ancestor heaven and earth said solemnly. You heard the rumor of your ancestors and walked into the holy city and here. You must have seen some people's corpses before. They may have heard the rumor left by my generation and never come here. The 2 of us only ended up like this because we heard the rumors left behind by the previous generation. Have you ever thought about the source of this rumor? Chapter 938. The Holy City was the passageway out of the falling star continent. This rumor had been passed down for many years, generation after generation. If one really wanted to go back in time, they would have to go back hundreds of thousands of years. Lang Shiqi's mind flashed. He combined the memories left by heaven and earth Taoist ancestor and the Samsara master. The holy city was originally built by the Star Tribe to return to where they came from. After the Star Tribe was destroyed, the holy city fell into the hands of the 4 sages. After that, the 4 sages left the falling star continent through the holy city. This legend had been passed down since then. The 4 sages were the source of all this. Everyone else had thought of this as well. But so what? The 4 sages left the continent through the holy city, and so did many Holy Spirit experts. What did this have to do with a scam? Very soon, everyone understood the relationship between the 2. Along the way, they saw dozens of Holy Spirit experts' corpses. The holy demon and heaven and earth Taoist ancestor said that all this was a scam. The only possibility was that it was the 4 sages who had set up this shocking scam. The 4 sages of the human tribe who had saved the human tribe from disaster and overthrown the Star Tribe. This subverted everyone's worldview. The 4 sages were great people who had started the human tribe's prosperity. How could they be the source of a scam? The holy demon of 10 directions said, "You're right. Everything originated from the 4 sages." His voice was filled with hatred, as well as a hint of fear. This passageway has been very stable for hundreds of thousands of years, but the key is not the passageway, but the 4 sages. Hearing this, they looked at the surrounding space cracks and could not help but twitch their mouths. How could this be called unusually stable? Of course, they were most concerned about the 4 sages. The holy demon also gritted his teeth. It's them. It's all their fault. This is not a passageway. It's clearly a trap set up by the 4 sages. As he spoke, he pointed in the direction of the end of the wasteland and said, "Do you know what's at the end of the wasteland? There's no so-called exit, no so-called other continent. There are only the 4 sages who are hunters. The 4 saints have never left this place. They are at the end of the wasteland. All the Holy Spirit Masters who heard the rumors were killed and devoured by them. More than 100,000 years ago, the Heaven and Earth Tao ancestor and I, 2 Holy Spirit Masters, entered this place together. Fortunately, the 2 of us detected the danger in advance and barely managed to escape. However, even so, only a trace of remnant soul was left. Everything is a lie, a scam. We have been fooled by the 4 sages for hundreds of thousands of years. In the end, we are just prey in their mouths." The 10 directional sky demons' words directly shattered everyone's worldview. It turned out that this wasn't a passageway, but a death trap set up by the 4 sages. Moreover, the 4 sages, who were revered by countless people, actually treated their descendants as prey, using rumors as bait to lure them into this death trap. On the road, most of the spirit cultivator who had cultivated to the peak were people with extremely high aspirations. It was impossible for them to die of old age in the falling star continent. In order to pursue greater power, they would definitely choose to enter this place, which would completely ruin their lives. However, no one completely believed them. After all, what the 10 directional sky demons said might not be true. Lang Shiqi pondered for a moment and said, "Even if you and the Heaven and Earth Tao ancestor escaped from the hands of the 4 sages, why didn't they chase after you?" "You don't believe me?" The 10 directional sky demon was a little angry. The Heaven and Earth Tao ancestor continued, "On the way here, you also saw a lot of corpses. They all escaped, but their Holy Spirit and Holy Spirit have long been taken away by the 4 sages. They are just walking corpses. The 10 directional sky demon and I were enemies for many years, more than 100,000 years ago. We fought countless times, and because of this, we knew each other's cultivation methods and spiritual skills very well. In a moment of desperation, we abandoned 99% of our Holy Spirit, barely keeping a little bit of remnant soul. If it weren't for your vitality to wake us up, our remnant souls would have completely dissipated in at most 1,000 years." Lang Shiqi asked again, "You all escaped by the way you came, but when we entered this place, the door closed and disappeared. Do you have a way to leave this place?" This question attracted everyone's attention. Now the seriousness of the matter had seriously exceeded their expectations. There were not only the remnant souls of the Holy Spirit Masters, but also the legendary 4 sages. Leaving seemed to be the best choice. Disappeared? How could that door disappear? The Heaven and Earth Tao ancestor and the 10 directional sky demon exclaimed at the same time. Then the 10 directional sky demon said in shock, "Oh no, maybe because your aura has been detected by the 4 sages, your aura is too weak, so they think that there will be no more Holy Spirit Masters on the continent today, so they chose to completely close the passage. The next step of their plan is about to begin." Their words hit the spiritual defense line again and again, and even Lang Shiqi's eyelids were twitching. What plan? Now that we have come in, we have been targeted by the 4 sages. We are now grasshoppers on the same rope, so there is no need to hide anything. The Heaven and Earth Tao ancestor said with some horror, "They want to transcend this world. For hundreds of thousands of years, they have been using this rumor to absorb the power of the Holy Spirit Masters, and then all the spiritual energy, the original energy of heaven and earth, and the power of law of the entire falling star continent. Finally, they can transcend this world." Before his voice died away, an endless holy light suddenly illuminated the whole wilderness. The brilliant holy power hit like a heat wave, and everyone felt as if they were bathed in flames, and their bodies were unbearably hot. Rays of spiritual light shone, but they were still forced to retreat hundreds of miles by the holy light. The 10 directional sky demons said in horror, "It's over, they have awakened." The Holy Spirit Masters were frightened to this extent, which showed that the four sages had left a terrible impression on them. Lang Shiqi and the others looked more and more serious. They were about to face the four sages who had created a great event for the human race. They were at most in the reaching heaven realm, and there were even two in the metaphysic realm among them. They were not qualified to even look at the four sages. How could they fight the four sages? There was no way to fight, so they could only run. However, the entrance they had come in from had been completely sealed. There was no way out now, and there was only death. Everyone could not help but feel a little desperate. Suddenly, a few voices sounded. They seemed to be far away, but also seemed to be right in front of them. In the end it has come to this. It's just the general trend. The falling star continent is our last chance, and also our last chance. At this last moment, there are still two descendants here. I won't be polite. Chapter 939. Everyone did not know what had happened. Luo Ying Spirit Sage and Huang Wei Spirit Sage, who were originally standing at their original spots, stiffened. Their eyes lost focus for a moment before they recovered. However, their eyes had undergone a drastic change. Those two pairs of eyes were as deep as the abyss, filled with the endless sea and fields. At this moment, Luo Ying's Spirit Sage was no longer her, but one of the four saints from hundreds of thousands of years ago, Luo Ying's Spirit Sage. Huang Wei Spirit Sage was also Huang Wei Spirit Sage. The two of them had their bodies taken over in an instant. At the same time, another two figures emitting holy light appeared in the sky above everyone. Based on the images that had been passed down, they recognized that these two were the original Six Directions Saint and Wuxia Saint. The four saints were indeed not dead. They even appeared in front of them. Lang Shiqi felt that his breathing was abnormally heavy. The four of them were famous throughout the world, and their reputations were known for thousands of years. Now, the four of them were right in front of him. The majestic saint aura was like an invisible mountain, pressing down on everyone. Unknowingly, the spiritual energy in their bodies seemed to have solidified, and even their thoughts became slower. I haven't seen a living person for a long time. This aura is really nostalgic. Luo Ying's Spirit Sage stared at them with burning eyes, sending chills down their spines. Huang Wei Spirit Sage said in an abnormally serious tone, "All right, stop scaring them. Let's get down to business." Six Directions Saint and Wuxia Saint did not seem to have physical bodies, but the holy light around them was as bright as real bodies. Six Directions Saint said, "Wuxia, explain it to them clearly." Wuxia Saint first looked at the 10 Directions Saint Demon and Tao Ancestor Heaven and Earth. His look made the two of them take a few steps back in fear. He said, "What you said is not true. We have never lied. This is indeed the passage out of the falling star continent. If you don't believe me, you can go to the end and take a look." Then, he waved his hand gently. Everyone's vision blurred, and they arrived at the end of the passage. In front of them was a huge chaotic whirlpool, with spatial turbulence constantly flowing through it. Through here, you can leave the falling star continent. Of course, the prerequisite is that you can survive in the spatial turbulence. Several reaching heaven states looked at the chaotic vortex and fell into silence. Even the 10 celestial demons and Tao Ancestor Heaven and Earth were the same. The last time they were here, they hadn't seen this thing at all. The four saints had taken away their saint power and saint soul. Therefore, they had always believed that the passageway did not exist. However, they could clearly sense a completely unfamiliar aura on the other side of the vortex. That was indeed a world outside of the Starfall continent. What they were more concerned about was why they hadn't left the falling star continent since the four saints weren't lying. Or had they left and now had to return? They couldn't figure it out, and their hearts were filled with doubts. Only Lang Shiqi's focus was different from the others. He vaguely realized that all the energy here seemed to be slowly flowing into the vortex. It could also be said that the vortex was constantly absorbing the energy here, whether it was energy, origin energy, or the power of laws. Saint Master Wu Ji glanced at Lang Shiqi and said, "You've already realized that this space wasn't a wasteland back then. It was a paradise with the most abundant spiritual energy. Now, there are only a few traces of spiritual energy left." Lang Shiqi seemed to have thought of something. After they entered the secret realm in the holy city, the spiritual energy was abnormally rich, and the laws of heaven and earth were more compatible. However, after coming here, It was completely the opposite. Looking at the vortex now, he suddenly felt that the outside world was far inferior to the falling star continent. If he guessed correctly, the four saints had seized the passageway built by the Star Clan to leave here and go to a wider world. They should have left, but they found that the spiritual energy in the outside world was even more scarce. In other words, the falling star continent was a richer land. Lung Shiqi knew more inside information. Back then, the Star Clan and the Dark Shadow Clan both came from a place called the Zhongyuan continent. There was once a war between thousands of clans, and the world was torn apart. As a result, the Zhongyuan continent was divided into many continents. However, the falling star continent was not divided from the Zhongyuan continent. It was a spatial fragment created by an accident at the beginning of the world. When the spiritual energy in this world began to dissipate, the power of bloodline and the power of laws became thinner and thinner. This process was not slow in the Zhongyuan continent, but it was relatively slow in the falling star continent. Therefore, the Star Clan thought that the spiritual energy in the outside world was more abundant and wanted to open a spatial tunnel to return to the Zhongyuan continent. In the end, the Star Clan was destroyed by the human race led by the Four Saints, and this tunnel fell into their hands. In order to hide the tunnel, they built a holy city. Before they planned to leave, they left behind this news so that the experts behind them could leave as well. Unfortunately, the Four Saints also miscalculated. Saint Master Wu Ji said, "The world we're in is called the Zhongyuan world. 1,000,000 years ago, this world only had one vast continent called the Zhongyuan continent. Later, the Zhongyuan continent fell apart and became hundreds of continents of various sizes. Through this whirlpool, we can directly reach the original Zhongyuan continent. Unfortunately, the Zhongyuan continent and even the Zhongyuan world no longer have any spiritual energy. Not only spiritual energy, even the laws of heaven and earth are hidden. If I wait until I reach that world, my saint power will be taken away and I will be no different from a mortal." To a spirit cultivator, the falling star continent is the last pure land in this world. The old beggar and the others were stunned. They had endured for tens of thousands of years in order to find an opportunity to improve themselves. The appearance of the holy city gave them a glimmer of hope, but now they were told that the outside world could no longer cultivate. The falling star continent was the place with the most abundant spiritual energy. This was equivalent to completely cutting off their chances of becoming a saint. "You guys are unwilling, but it's useless." Saint Master Wu Ji could see the disappointment in their hearts. Back then, the reason why saint spirit experts like us could become saints was because we had to go through the heavenly death tribulation. However, the heavenly death tribulation back then was different from now. If you want to become a saint, you have to completely comprehend a certain law of heaven and earth. After receiving the recognition of the world, you will become a law of heaven and earth. Therefore, the heavenly death tribulation is actually a test given to you by the will of heaven and earth. However, the heavenly death tribulation that you guys are facing is no longer like that. Probably since tens of thousands of years ago, the will of heaven and earth no longer allows saint spirit experts to exist. Therefore, as long as someone triggers the heavenly death tribulation, they will definitely die. So it was like that. Everyone finally knew the truth. It wasn't that they were too weak, nor was it that their comprehension of the laws was insufficient. It was that this world did not allow them to become saints. Chapter 940. Unwillingness welled up in their hearts. The old beggar and the others hated themselves for being born in the wrong era. But thinking about it, even if they were born tens of thousands of years earlier and successfully became a saint, they would still die here. Therefore, everyone was most concerned about their own lives. The old beggar did not know where his courage came from, but he questioned, "Old beggar, I just want to know one thing. How did so many Holy Spirit experts die?" The 10 sky demons and Tao ancestor Chen Kuan silently retreated, afraid that the martial saint would suddenly explode and kill them. The martial saint sighed helplessly. "They did indeed die at our hands." He admitted it. Those hundreds of Holy Spirit experts had indeed died at the hands of the Four Saints. "But I had no other choice," the martial saint explained. "Do you know that the spirit energy in the outside world had already dried up 200 to 300,000 years ago, and the spirit energy in the falling star continent was also constantly leaking out with this whirlpool? It was the four of us who worked together to set up the array to seal the spirit energy, allowing the living beings of the falling star continent to still enjoy the prosperity of spirit cultivation." Lang Shiqi and the others were somewhat skeptical. According to the 10 sky demons, the 4 saints wanted to devour the power of many Holy Spirit experts to transcend this world. But the martial saints said that they were the spirit cultivators protecting the falling star continent. Who was the one who was lying? Sacred Sovereign Wu Ji snapped his fingers, and a series of profound sacred aura arrays appeared, firmly locking the vortex in place. This saint is not lying to you, and the 10 sky demons are not wrong. Although the 4 of us are at the peak of the Holy Spirit realm, we do not have unlimited power. Furthermore, the will of the heavens and earth has already taken away our recognition, and our power is constantly weakening. In order to continue maintaining the array, we persuaded the Holy Spirit experts to help us. However, without exception, they did not mean what they said, and all of them thought of ways to return to the falling star continent. Thus we made a decision. At this point, he stopped talking, but everyone knew what decision they had made. That was to kill the Holy Spirit realm experts that came later and take away their power. From the looks of it, the 4 saints did not seem to be that sinister, and were thinking for the spirit cultivators of the falling star continent. But were they really so selfless? Lang Shiqi couldn't believe it. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. Not to mention the 4 saints, even the current Lang Shiqi could behead countless people with a single word. If the 4 saints did not have any selfish motives, they would not have left the falling star continent so resolutely. The 10 sky demons immediately sneered. Nonsense! You've never mentioned this. We were attacked as soon as we approached. That's right, our original intention had always been to protect the spirit cultivators of the Starfall dynasty, but as time passed, as more and more Holy Spirit experts died at our hands, as we became more and more dissatisfied with this world, in the end, we still became bedeviled. As Sacred Venerate Wu Ji spoke, a black mark appeared between his eyebrows, causing his aura to become extremely evil. However, the imprint immediately disappeared. It's not entirely correct to say that we've gone berserk. To be precise, we've gone berserk on our own accord. Since the later generations are not willing to be with us, we can only make them stay here forever. Hundreds of thousands of years have passed, and we've absorbed a large amount of saint energy and saint souls. More than half of them have been used to maintain the formation, and the rest have been divided equally among the 4 of us. About 100,000 years ago, our strength reached an unprecedented peak. At that time, we felt that we might as well directly swallow all the power of the falling star continent, shatter the void, and transcend this world. Unfortunately, at that time the world changed greatly. From then on, the whirlpool would erupt with great turbulence every once in a while. We had to go all out to barely maintain it. Once the formation is broken, the spirit energy of the falling star continent will dissipate within a few years. We have no time to set up anything else in advance. Until now, the number of times the whirlpool has erupted has increased, and it has been a long time since a Holy Spirit expert has entered. Our strength has been declining. Until 10,000 years ago, we even had to abandon our bodies to survive in the form of saint souls. This is the truth that has been hidden for hundreds of thousands of years. Do you understand? Everyone was deeply shocked. It turned out that for hundreds of thousands of years, the 4 saints had endured humiliation and even took the initiative to become bedeviled. They even gave up their bodies to protect the falling star continent. Even if they had their own selfish motives, in the end, they still gave up on their selfishness. Of course, the premise of all of this was that the martial saint did not lie to them. After saying so much, it seemed like everything could be matched, but in the end, it was still the martial saint's own words. No one could verify the truth of these words. Lang Shiqi probed. In the past, there were Holy Spirit experts that came in and became your strength, and we only have a few Heaven Ascension stages. To the dignified 4 saints, this bit of strength is not even a drop in the ocean. Therefore, Junior dares to guess that the 4 Saint Lords do not want to kill us and take away our power. You can still maintain such a clear mind. Not bad. Junior will make another guess. The 4 Saint Venerables might still need our help, right? That's right. This time, the one who spoke was not the martial saint, but the 6 Directions Saint. At the same time, the Holy Sage Luo Ying and the Holy Sage Huang Wei also appeared. The 6 Directions Saint said, "The few of you are the strongest spirit cultivator in the falling star continent right now. This saint hopes that the few of you can help us a little, and wish that we can transcend the Middle Origin world. We have protected the falling star continent for hundreds of thousands of years, and we have done our best. Now, it is time for them to repay us. Although he did not say it clearly, Leng Shiqi could feel that if the four saints wanted to transcend this world, the falling star continent would not have a good ending. The four saints who had protected the continent for hundreds of thousands of years had ended up destroying the falling star continent. Leng Shiqi was not a good person, but he had planned for 10 years to devour the world. Now the plan had been fully activated, and the two great empires were at war. If the plan went smoothly, the falling star continent would be his before long. However, at this moment, the four saints were prepared to take away his things, and even destroy them to help themselves. How could Leng Shiqi agree? Holy Sage Luo Ying continued, "First of all, you have to understand that we are not asking for your opinions. After we send you out, there are two things you need to do. First, there are 4 dragon veins in the falling star continent. I will tell you the exact location later. You must obtain those 4 dragon veins. Not a single one of them can be missing. Second, this saint will give you a type of array formation. You must set it up in a set place within 10 years. If there is the slightest deviation, you should be very clear about the consequences." With that, Holy Sage Luo Ying flicked his finger, and 4 rays of golden light entered the space between Leng Shiqi and the rest's brows. They immediately knew everything. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.